ABC News Live.
Sparks fly in North Carolina as two major storms sweep the U.S. This lightning strike was caught on camera in Mooresville, North Carolina. Fortunately, no one was hurt. As those systems move, there are tornado watches in the south and a life-threatening bomb cyclone hitting the west, bringing with it torrential rain, heavy snow, and winds up to 70 miles per hour. Our Ginger Z times it all out. The storm's set to move from Florida to the Carolinas and up the East Coast. The standoff over the House Speaker in Congress intensifies. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has now failed on 6 straight ballots to receive the 218 votes needed to become Speaker, blocked by hardline conservatives. ABC News Live has complete coverage. Our Rachel Scott and Jay O'Brien are standing by. A violent plan. Prosecutors say the suspect charged in the New Year's Eve attack on police near Times Square wanted to kill an officer in uniform and then planned to attack elected officials next. The man accused of murdering 4 college students is back in Idaho. What's next in the case against Brian Koberger? Signs of improvement. The encouraging update tonight after Buffalo Bills player Demar Hamlin's chilling collapse on the field as he went into cardiac arrest. His family shares what doctors want to see next. Parodying police online. Is it a First Amendment right or a violation of the law? Coming up, a closer look at a debate that could reach the Supreme Court.
So no one from the city, if they were concerned about it, reached out through the page and said, hey, who is this? Take it down.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I pretty much just try to make my friends on Facebook laugh. I didn't think it would go past that.
But is it a laughing matter? Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We are following 2 major stories this Wednesday night in Washington. The House will gavel back into session a little less than an hour from now after 6 rounds of failed votes for the next Speaker of the House. Right now, Kevin McCarthy still does not have the 218 votes needed to get the job. Our team on the Hill is standing by to give us the latest developments, and we will be joined live by a Republican congressman in a moment. But first, to the megastorm taking aim at the Bay Area and the entire state of California. A state of emergency there tonight. The National Weather Service is calling it a life-threatening bomb cyclone. Authorities are warning residents to take this enormous storm that you see here on the satellite image very seriously. Up to 10 inches of rain and 70-mile-per-hour winds are expected in some parts of the Bay Area. Driving in San Francisco has already become difficult. And in Sacramento tonight, there are major concerns as crews are still working to repair levees that were breached over the weekend from the last storm. And that first storm is hammering the south tonight. A possible tornado hitting Montgomery, Alabama. Ginger Z is in the Bay Area for us tonight, and we'll have the track in a moment. But first, Mola Lange leads us off from Sacramento County.
Tonight, California's governor declaring a state of emergency, and the warnings couldn't be more dire.
This may be one of the most challenging and impactful series of storms to touch down in California in the last 5 years.
The storm promising to be even stronger than the one that inundated neighborhoods, flooded businesses up to their windows, and washed out roads over the weekend. The ground still saturated. High winds now more likely to bring down trees. Our Ginger Z is south of San Francisco.
The winds will gust 50 to 70 miles per hour. These waves could climb as high as 30 feet. But you'll also have training rain, meaning it'll ride over basically a train track, the same place as getting inundated.
People racing to prepare.
We have our generators ready. We have flashlights. We're ready to go. Candles, just in case.
The last storm compromised multiple levees in Sacramento County, flooding roads and homes, including Vic Chadas. Concerned now that this other storm's coming through?
Yeah, I am. Those trees along that driveway, if one of them goes down, even though we might not flood, you can't get out.
That system crossing the country, dumping more than a foot of snow in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Overnight, a Delta flight sliding off a taxiway after landing at the airport there. And in Montgomery, Alabama, a possible tornado damaging more than 50 homes and businesses. 2 people hurt.
Such an active storm system. Mola Lange joins us now from Sacramento. Mola, we see the trucks right behind you. It seems that crews are still frantically working to clean up after that latest round of flooding that resulted in several levee breaches.
Well, that's right, Lindsay, and we should note that authorities have confirmed a second person killed in last weekend's storms here in Sacramento County, the flooding after that levee break that resulted in that levee break. And as you mentioned, these are the trucks lined up here racing to plug that break ahead of the next round of storms moving in tonight.
All right, Mola Lange for us. Thanks so much, Mola. Stay safe. Well, let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z, who's in the Bay Area. Ginger, it is going to be a long night ahead for the entire Bay Area, really the entire state of California. What are you most concerned about as you look at the timing of this massive storm?
The worst part of this is it's coming as everybody wraps up their day. And if they did not make changes to their day, it is imminent. These things are going to deteriorate fast. And I mean these things, the conditions, the rainfall is going to be heavy, like blinding rain on roadways. Flash flooding will add up very quickly, as they got some of that earlier this morning. And then on top of all of it, the winds will start gusting 30, 40, and then 50 miles per hour before everybody's home and tucked in tonight. Eventually 70 mile per hour winds. So as we look, Lindsay, at the satellite image, that really classic comma you've been seeing, you know, this is something that California does see. Atmospheric rivers happen here often. It's just that it's been years to see this intensity coming this close together because we just got drenched last weekend. That's why the widespread flooding is anticipated tonight. The mud and landslides are inevitable, the downed trees, and of course power outages as you see those gusts upwards of 60 or 70. Timing wise, you see the fire hose. It sits right over San Francisco all the way up to Redding, I'd say. Interstate 5 could become very difficult travel, especially if you're in high-profile vehicles because of the winds. And as that heaviest rain kind of fire hoses into Santa Barbara by, say, 3, 4 a.m., eventually Los Angeles by 6 a.m., this is all in Pacific time, we're going to see wraparound showers coming into San Francisco tomorrow. So kind of banging on the backside of it will be extra wind, extra rain, and that is going to be very difficult for any first responders to get to people who need it. So not only do we have all those flood alerts across most of the state, those winter storm warnings that anticipate up to 4 feet of snow, but also remember, it's all about the wind. When you have this type of wind pushing the Pacific Ocean toward the coast, it acts like a hurricane. The hurricane hunters are out there right now taking observations because they've already seen it bomb out, as we call it, this bomb cyclone, meaning that it's dropped more than 24 millibars. It actually dropped 29 in less than 24 hours. And so this also brings with it the first round of rain, and I say first because there's another one coming this weekend, and it looks like a long event. And so the next 7 days we have on here with 10+ inches in some places. Some of the mountain areas could see 1.5 feet of rain. It just has been a very long time since they've seen this, and it's going to come quick. And yes, the reservoirs, but boy, we are going to see so many bad impacts along with all of the moisture.
And we so appreciate you explaining the science of it all. People hear the bomb cyclone, don't really know what it means, but certainly those in California are going to feel the effects sooner or later. Ginger, our thanks to you as always. Now to the dramatic stalemate in Congress, where Republicans have failed to elect a new speaker. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy falling short in 6 rounds of voting over the last 2 days. As a group of far-right Republicans hold firm against him, Congress is set to reconvene at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. So what happens next? Here's ABC's congressional correspondent Rachel Scott from Capitol Hill.
Excuse us. Tonight, Kevin McCarthy in the fight of his political life, losing 6 rounds of votes, but refusing to abandon his quest to be Speaker of the House.
What is the strategy going forward with McCarthy?
To work through it, get everybody together, and solve our problems.
Are you so confident that you can pull this out, 6 failed votes?
Yeah, very.
Today, former President Donald Trump urging the rebel Republicans, some of his staunchest supporters, to fall in line, saying vote for Kevin, close the deal. Do not turn a great triumph into a giant and embarrassing defeat. They were not persuaded. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who barely won re-election, sending this message about the hardball tactics.
Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off, I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw.
All day long, intense discussions playing out on the House floor in full view of the cameras. McCarthy's allies acknowledging the obvious.
The root issue is this: they do not trust Kevin McCarthy. What can heal that divide?
Some McCarthy supporters clearly frustrated.
Do you believe time is running out for Kevin McCarthy?
Well, I think that the more times he has a vote and does not win, the more times it shows that there's a lack of confidence in part of the conference with his leadership.
Watching it all play out, the Democrats.
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, the lead vote getter in the last 5 rounds.
The gentleman is recognized.
As Republicans hash out their differences, all other House business at a standstill. Members who brought their families to Washington to witness their swearing in now in a holding pattern. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi with this suggestion.
This vote keeps going. A courteous thing to do for the families is for them to have somebody, the dean swears in the speaker, somebody could swear in the members so that at least their children could be there when they get sworn in, and then they can go home to school and rest, and then carry on as long as they need to get a majority. Just right now as a courtesy to the families. One thing though, thank God they weren't in the majority on January 6th, because that was the day you had to be organized to stave off what was happening.
The most recent Speaker of the House weighing in there. ABC's Rachel Scott joins us now from Capitol Hill. Rachel, the House is now in recess until 8 o'clock. Kevin McCarthy has been behind closed doors with some of those Republican holdouts. Is there any sense as far as if he's making any progress with them?
Oh, Lindsay, it's going to be a challenge, and Kevin McCarthy is under immense pressure to try and hammer out a deal tonight. If he cannot, even some of his own supporters say it would be time for him to step aside. Now, one of the possible contenders that is being floated is his own number 2, Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana. McCarthy, as you know, has already made some pretty major concessions here, but for some conservatives, it is not enough. They just want him gone, and I can tell you just moments ago, 2 of those conservatives, Congressman Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, left that meeting, and they said they were still against McCarthy, Lindsay.
Still in that never McCarthy, never Kevin column. All right, Rachel Scott for us. We will be talking with you again later on tonight, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
We are joined now by Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez of Texas, who is backing Republican leader McCarthy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Congressman. So after 6 failed votes, what's your message to those holdout Republicans tonight on why you believe that they should ultimately support Kevin McCarthy?
Yeah, Lindsay, thank you for having me. You know, it's gridlock here in Washington, and my message to the holdouts is this is wrong for the American people. The American people have made a decision, and it's time for the House to move forward. There's a lot of important things that we have to do in order to get this country back on track. Part of that is securing the southern border. I represent nearly half of the southern border. I look forward to, I reached out to the White House today to have the opportunity to host the president and to bring this country together. There's so much division and gridlock. It's time to put that aside and put the country first, because there are a lot of needs. The border's one, but the economy is another, education, keeping our children safe. The list goes on and on. Congress needs to get to work.
There seems to be this impasse where they either just don't like him or don't trust him, right? Or maybe it's one or the other, or maybe it's both. Why is there any hope of negotiations or concessions to get McCarthy the votes that he needs?
Yeah, Lindsay, I spent 20 years in the military, and I see far too many politicians up here and not enough leaders. What I would like to see, we're about to go back into session here in about an hour, lock the doors. Nobody comes out until there's white smoke, right? Until we have a Speaker of the House going forward. That's what this place takes. It's always some cliff or, you know, Christmas or some deadline. It's time to just get everybody in a room and go, nobody goes home until we have a Speaker of the House, because there's too much at stake. Like I said, securing the southern border, you know, El Paso is still having lots of issues. There's a lot of very important topics that we need to be had, and we got to get done with this political infighting.
What's your response to Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who said that former President Trump should be calling McCarthy and telling him to withdraw because he doesn't have the votes to win?
Yeah, I would remind the Congresswoman that there's only 20 votes, vice over 200 for Kevin McCarthy. At the end of the day, you know, President Trump, the most conservative parts of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, everybody is supporting Kevin McCarthy. This is a personal vendetta behind it. I think at the end of the day, we got to look beyond it and go, who here in Washington, who here in Congress wants to get back on track? And if it's Democrats, then Republicans and Democrats need to come together and elect a Speaker of the House, and I think that's Kevin McCarthy.
Right now, a majority of House members voting is needed to become Speaker, but the idea of lowering the vote threshold to simply needing a plurality is reportedly being tossed about. Would you support that rule change to try to force those holdout Republicans to support McCarthy, knowing that Democrat Hakeem Jeffries has won the plurality of votes in every round so far?
Possibly. I mean, that's a tool that has been used in years past. What I would like to see, I like to see this country have more unity, and I think there's an opportunity to do that. There's also, I believe, there's Democrats that have had enough as well, and they want to see this House get back in order as well. So I think there's a lot of different opportunities to it. But enough with the games. Get us all in a room, lock the doors, and solve the problem, because it's not fair to the American public. A lot of these games up here, it's inside baseball, Washington Beltway stuff. Like I said, that the politicians are leading. Real Americans are worried about putting food on the table, keeping their kids safe. We deserve it to the American people to deliver for them, all of us, regardless of what side of the party you fall on.
Is there anyone else that you'd consider voting for? I know that Steve Scalise's name has been bandied about, for example.
You know, there's all these names that are getting thrown out. I think Kevin McCarthy has done a fantastic job getting us to this point, and he deserves the opportunity to do that. And the reality is 200 of my colleagues agree with me. You know, he's gotten over 200 votes every single round. So it's not as if that is a split amongst the caucus. It is a handful of people that are honestly putting their own ambitions ahead of the country, and that has to essentially end.
What does this all say about the state of the Republican Party and your party's ability to effectively and actually govern once a speaker is finally chosen?
You know, this is only the beginning, and, you know, this is supposed to be the easy part. So it terrifies me, and it should terrify everybody what the 118th Congress should look like. But we've seen this. I mean, the White House has been in disarray, because the Senate has been in disarray. A lot of people were looking to the House to lead things, and it's not we're not off to a good start. I'd say it's time to put all that politics aside, you know, starting with President Biden visiting the border. That is a promising development. It's things like this on how can Congress work with the administration to solve the nation's problems. Enough with the inside baseball politics. It's time to deliver for the American public.
You know, I brought this to a Republican congresswoman who we spoke with last night about, you know, obviously, you know, the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different outcome. Is that what's happening at this point? I mean, because if there are clearly these holdouts, and you're talking about, you know, locking everybody in the room until there's a white smoke, but we keep seeing the same thing happening again and again, and there's no different outcome. I mean, what is there going to take? Is there any hope that that it would be even effective if you locked everybody in the room tonight? Because it seems like there are some people who say, look, no matter what, I am never voting for Kevin McCarthy.
There is, and there's other folks that are saying, no matter what, I'm only voting for Kevin McCarthy. I mean, the reality is we are going to have a Speaker of the House, and that will likely be Kevin McCarthy. What needs to happen is everybody just needs to get in that room and nobody leaves. It's the only way this place works. There has to be a deadline. There has to be some sort of pain, if you will, for these lawmakers. Otherwise, you know, they want to get back to business as normal. We got to lock everyone in the room and no one comes out until we have a Speaker of the House and we start delivering for the American public.
All right, well, we hope you're right, Congressman Gonzalez, and that all of this perhaps will come to an end tonight. We so appreciate you joining the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
ABC's Joe Bryan joins us now from Capitol Hill. Jay, we're now on the second day of this. What could a delay like this mean for the new Congress?
Yeah, Lindsay, this has real-world implications because the House of Representatives is stalled until they elect a speaker. They can't do anything else. They can't form committees, which have vital oversight over agencies like the Pentagon, over the intelligence community. Also, they can't pass any legislation, which we've heard both Republicans and Democrats use to make political points. Those pro-McCarthy Republicans are saying to the anti-McCarthy Republicans, look what you're doing. You're holding up our day one priorities. But we're also seeing Democrats get in on all of this, watching this all from the sidelines and saying that they are seeing dysfunction caused by these Republicans. I was at a press conference earlier with Pete Aguilar, the chair of the Democratic caucus in the House, and he called this a crisis of Congress, Lindsay.
And you gave us a sense of it just now, but any other color or mood that you can pass along within regard to the House and how members on both sides of the aisle are reacting to this, given that we haven't seen something like this in nearly 100 years?
Well, look, this has gone on a long time, Lindsay, and the question becomes how much longer do members want it to go on, and at what point do they get tired of all of this? This has gone on for more than 30 hours now, the voting and the deliberations on who the next Speaker of the House is going to be. And that never McCarthy group of lawmakers, it is their decision to make as to how much longer they want to hold out for. Will they hold out for another candidate for Speaker? Will they eventually cave? I can tell you there are lawmakers who are debating all of that right now. The other thing they're doing is taking in this moment of history. As you said, this hasn't happened, multiple ballots for Speaker, since 1923. I spoke with Representative Jimmy Gomez of California, Democrat of California. He had his son Haj, 4 months old, on the House floor with him yesterday for all of the votes, and then for votes again today, watching this history play out through his tiny little eyes. So there is a sense of history, but there's also a sense amongst lawmakers that there needs to be some kind of resolution to get Congress back on track, Lindsay.
And I saw that little baby. The baby seemed to have a lot more patience than many Americans. Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill for us. Thanks so much, Jay. Tonight, the suspect in the murders of 4 Idaho college students is back in Idaho, moved from a Pennsylvania jail early this morning. Now we're learning new details about what happened when suspect Brian Kohberger was pulled over by police during a cross-country drive with his dad back in December. Here's Kena Whitworth.
Tonight, stunning new images showing a second traffic stop police made in Indiana, pulling over Idaho murder suspect Brian Kohberger and his dad during their 2,500-mile road trip to Pennsylvania.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours.
Kohberger's dad trying to explain they're punchy because they'd been driving for days from Washington State University, even bringing up another crime on that campus that had rattled them. It was unrelated to the nearby Idaho murders.
Oh, it's horrifying because he's going to the university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
The father telling police Brian is a PhD in criminal justice, and the officer lets him go.
Okay. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? Oh, all right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Minutes later, an Indiana trooper pulls them over again for tailgating, both stops ending with only a warning. Tonight, the suspect in the murder of those 4 college students is now on his way to Idaho. His return paving the way for authorities to unseal the arrest warrant, describing the evidence against him.
I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents.
Police have not said whether they believe Kohberger knew the victims, but we're learning more about his movements near the University of Idaho in the months leading up to the murders.
Law enforcement in Pullman and Moscow had no prior history with this guy.
I think we had a traffic stop with him at one point in time. I think we gave a seatbelt ticket.
In the white Elantra?
Yes.
That traffic stop in Moscow back in August, 3 months before the murders.
Kena Whitworth is back in Idaho tonight. Kena, we know that Kohberger was pulled over at least 3 times by police. Let's revisit those 2 stops in Indiana. At the time, Idaho police were asking for help to find a white Hyundai Elantra. The story made national headlines. What are police in Indiana saying now about that?
So, Lindsay, what they're saying is that at the time of those pullovers, there was no identifying information about a suspect for the crimes here in Idaho. They also said they had no license plate number for the white Elantra that authorities here were looking for. And as for Kohberger, his lawyer says that he is eager to be exonerated. Lindsay?
All right, Kena Whitworth for us once again. Thanks so much, Kena. The suspect in the New Year's Eve attack on police officers near Times Square has been arraigned on attempted murder charges from his hospital bed. Prosecutors shared terrifying details of the suspect's desire to, quote, kill an officer in uniform. ABC's Aaron Katersky has the chilling details for us tonight.
Tonight, authorities say the 19-year-old from Maine charged in the New Year's Eve knife attack on 3 police officers near Times Square had plans to carry out jihad in New York and beyond. Prosecutors allege Trevor Bickford, who sources say was on an FBI watch list after his mother reported he'd been radicalized, intended to travel across the United States and had purchased a train ticket to Miami, determined to target government officials and officers in uniform.
He knew what he was doing. He knew why he was doing it.
Bickford allegedly confessing, newly unsealed court records quoting him saying, "I wanted to kill an officer in uniform. I saw the officer and waited until he was alone. I said Allahu Akbar. I walked up and hit him over the head. I charged another officer but dropped the knife, and I tried to get the police officer's gun but couldn't." The suspect was taken into custody after being shot in the shoulder by police, today appearing before a judge virtually from his hospital bed. The mayor praising those officers.
Those officers discharged one round. Concerned about the safety of everyone that was there, they immediately terminated the threat.
Aaron Katersky joins us now. Aaron, how is the recovery going for those injured officers?
All three of those officers, Lindsay, have been released from the hospital on New Year's Day, so they've been at home. They're continuing to recover. And as you heard the mayor say, their actions are being praised for stopping the suspect here, just a few blocks from Times Square. That's how the security perimeter is supposed to work. So the police say that their plan worked because the suspect was not able to access the immediate area where all the revelers were for the ball drop. Needless to say, those officers, however, were injured, and it could be some time before they're back on the force.
And have the attorneys for the suspect made any statements at all?
They have. The attorneys for the suspect, being represented by Legal Aid Society, said that they would like the public not to make any hasty conclusions about what went on here on New Year's Eve. And Lindsay, they pointed to the suspect's age, 19 years old. They said he's just a kid. Lindsay?
All right, Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you. Now to the NFL and news on Buffalo Bills safety Demar Hamlin, who remains in intensive care tonight after suffering cardiac arrest on the field during the team's Monday night football game. Hamlin's family today said that his condition is moving in a positive direction. Alex Perez reports tonight, once again from Cincinnati.
Tonight, as Demar Hamlin battles for his life, loved ones who have been by his bedside finally getting an encouraging update.
We've gotten good news. We heard from the doctors, and what they were wanting to see from him overnight, they were pleased with. We don't know how long this medical journey is going to be for him, but right now things are moving in a positive direction.
The horrific incident during Monday Night Football, the 24-year-old Buffalo Bills safety collapsing and suffering cardiac arrest after taking a hit to the chest during this tackle against the Cincinnati Bengals. Medics rushing in, performing CPR for 10 agonizing minutes, restoring his heartbeat on the field.
They are intensely working on Demar Hamlin.
Hamlin's agent telling ESPN his oxygen levels have improved, but Hamlin remains sedated and in critical condition. NFL executive and former player Troy Vincent emotional, breaking down as he thanked those fast-acting first responders.
You gave our brother Demar another day to live, another chance to fight.
The NFL saying this weekend's games will go on, but there's been no decision on when or if the suspended game will be played. The Bengals head coach says the focus remains on Hamlin's recovery.
All everyone's hoping for is the best case scenario with Demar.
Best case scenario, of course, is what everyone is hoping for here. Alex Perez joins us now from Cincinnati. Alex, President Biden even talked about this today. What did he have to say?
Yeah, Lindsay, the president revealed he has talked extensively with Hamlin's parents, and in referring to the risk players face, the president said it is dangerous. You just got to acknowledge it. Lindsay?
All right, Alex Perez for us. Thanks so much, Alex. When we come back, why a car crash that sparked the desperate rescue of 2 children and 2 adults is now leading to criminal charges for the father behind the wheel. And the so-called mastermind behind the college admissions scandal is sentenced in court. But first, police arrested a man over a fake Facebook page, and now he's waging a legal fight, hoping to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. How this could be a major test for both the First Amendment in the digital age and qualified immunity for police officers.
How often do these organs end up in American bodies? What are the secrets that most people don't know?
You should be very careful.
Let me see your ID card. Wait.
This is a world you will have to live in. There's no going back.
America every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're going to love it.
Bring them on. If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place as spectacular as, well, me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends. Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom, boom, boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom! Now that's how you start your day, people.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I have never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend.
Could have been any of us. I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Come out, wherever you
I think my niece Allie was pushed off that ledge. And only one person came into an 8-figure sum as a result of her death.
If we pull this off, we're set for life.
What do you think you're doing?
Get out now.
Can this be our little secret? They have to pay for what they did.
The Watchful Eye, January 30th on Freeform and stream on Hulu.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. So, what's good to read? And we mean really good to read right now. Well, that's where Charlie and Kate Gibson can help.
Join us for the new podcast series. It is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Ready for a good show? I'm Phil Grucci of Fireworks by Grucci.
No matter how big, no matter how small.
It is dangerous.
It's not a paycheck, it's our life.
Two climate activists spray-painted the front entrance of the French Prime Minister's office in protest against what the group called climate crimes committed by the state. Video of the protest action showed police dragging and arresting the two activists. There was no immediate reaction from Prime Minister Elizabeth Warren's office. Next month, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to decide whether it will take up the appeal of an Ohio man trying to sue a local police department for arresting him over a fake Facebook page. The page was a parody of the local police department, poking fun at it. The officers say it disrupted operations. He says it was obviously a joke. Now, a major comedy website is joining the debate in a case that tests the First Amendment and qualified immunity for police. Here's ABC's Devin Dwyer.
They say put your hands behind your back.
The parking lot arrest in 2016 stunned Anthony Novak as much as the charge.
They told me fake Parma police Facebook page.
Alleged disruption of police operations after Novak made a parody of the Parma, Ohio Police Department's official page on Facebook.
What kind of stuff was on the page?
So the first post, I said they were pleased to announce that they were enacting a new temporary law that would ban residents from feeding or housing the homeless. There was later a post about abortions where it said they were going to have a police van outside of a grocery store for teen abortions.
Parma police don't perform abortions.
No.
Is there any chance that a reasonable person could have perceived this as a real page?
No. You click the page, it's very obvious, and even what you're reading should strike you as off.
The page with the spoof slogan, "We Know Crime," quickly began to go viral, prompting 11 phone calls to the department's non-emergency number, according to court records, and a warning from the city on its official Facebook page about a fake.
Did anyone ever ask you to take it down?
No, never.
So no one from the city, if they were concerned about it, reached out through the page and said, hey, who is this? Take it down.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I pretty much just try to make my friends on Facebook laugh. I didn't think it was going to go past that.
But the police were not laughing and had this to say about the post to the local Fox News station.
Frankly, they're crude, they're demeaning, and they're very inflammatory. There's a fine line between satire and endangering the public.
The department launching a criminal investigation into who was behind the posts poking fun at their officers. Novak deleted the page after just 12 hours, but a month later was arrested and held in jail for 4 days.
I slept a lot of the time.
After a trial, a local jury acquitted him of any wrongdoing.
In this age of identity theft, misinformation everywhere, I mean, do we want people spoofing law enforcement? I mean, couldn't that cause confusion or worse?
I think making fun of the government, which is parody's pretty long-standing thing here in the country. Nothing really happened for my page. Honestly, the only thing that happened was the police overreacting.
They say, though, that the risk of confusion, the risk of distracting the police overrides some of that.
I was allowed to make a parody page about the police, and then they raided my house, they took my electronics, they arrested me, my image was blasted all over the news, and I didn't do anything wrong. So I don't want them to think that's okay, because I kind of think they do.
And I saw the cop pull in here.
Novak took the city of Parma to federal court, alleging the arrest and prosecution violated his First Amendment right to free speech and Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. A federal appeals court earlier this year acknowledged difficult questions in the case, but said the officers were protected by qualified immunity and dismissed Novak's claims. He's now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to hear his appeal.
Unless there are some consequences for police essentially taking offense to protected speech online and showing up at people's houses and arresting them, all signs are that they will continue doing that.
The city of Parma declined our request for an interview, but said in a statement that its officers did nothing wrong and that Novak's suit is groundless. The courts concluded that the police acted within the bounds of warrants issued by judges, adding Novak went beyond mimicry by reposting on his fake page an official warning from the city about the fake site.
The legal theory here is just staggeringly broad and dangerous for all sorts of free speech.
The power of parody is in being true to life, experts say. Criticism by imitation, from TV skits.
What seems to be the trouble, Donald? Who are you? Stay back.
To satirical headlines, some at least momentarily fooling the reader into thinking they could be real.
That's what this entire case hinges on. It's the ability to tell a joke with a straight face. Momentarily, you've been duped.
Mike Gillis is head writer at The Onion, the popular satirical web publication that mimics a newspaper and pokes fun at just about everyone and everything.
Our motto is Tu stultus es, which is you are dumb. So we try to hit the reader over the head with that every day.
This is where all the jokes are written.
Right, just this one man writes all of the jokes.
When Gillis heard about Novak's case, he and The Onion filed their first ever brief with the U.S. Supreme Court, citing a self-serving interest in preventing political authorities from imprisoning humorists, urging the justices to defend the ability to deceive without a disclaimer.
Where's the line?
There are powerful individuals in this country who seem to think that they should be the sole arbiters of that. And I think judges and police officers and figures of authority, the people who are most susceptible to parody, should be as far away from that lever as possible.
I was definitely shaken.
Novak says he's done poking fun at the police for now, but he's not giving up on parody, hoping The Onion's support will grab the attention of the nation's highest court to hear his case.
What is it you hope that comes from your case at the end of the day?
I hope that it defines even more something I think is already defined, that you can make fun of the government. It is your First Amendment right to make parody especially, and government shouldn't come after you and attack you. I don't want to strengthen that. I want to weaken that idea that the government can just come and arrest you and have no accountability.
Our thanks to Devin Dwyer for that. Still ahead here on Crime, how a police pursuit ended with 2 teens dead and an officer facing charges. What some schools are now requiring students to do as so many children come down with COVID, flu, and RSV. And the number of immigrants who have become U.S. citizens has reached a high in the past year. We'll take a closer look at why by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day. This photo from our partners in National Geographic as a blind man reads from a page written in Braille in Panama. The photo marks World Braille Day. We'll be right back.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
Avatar: The Way of Water
is mind-blowing.
You don't know what to expect.
Unlike anything you've ever seen.
What will audiences see in this film that they've never seen in a movie before?
We were competing who was going to hold their breath longer.
I made it to 3 minutes.
I think I got to 5.
7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Into the Deep with Avatar.
It was just amazing.
Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I've never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend.
Could have been any of us.
I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Zoo!
200!
Oh, 200.
200 episodes of Dr. Pol. Music to my ears.
It's been 10 years, and I'm still having fun.
That rocks. He's got the moves that make your animals groove.
Now we do the dance of joy. Yay!
He's like the Justin Bieber of the
Headlining the hottest barns.
Cut out.
It's a show you won't want to miss.
I'm not going to be here forever. Maybe.
The Incredible Dr. Pol. New episodes Saturdays at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
This is ABC News Live Prime.
Thanks so much for streaming with us.
Live reporting, breaking news, exclusives, award-winning, powerful, eye-opening. ABC News Live Prime with Lindsay Davis, streaming weeknights. So, what's good to read? And we mean really good to read right now. Well, that's where Charlie and Kate Gibson can help.
Join us for the new podcast series. It is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back, everyone. After a steep decline during the pandemic, the number of immigrants who have become U.S. citizens reached a recent high in the past year. Let's take a look by the numbers. Nearly 970,000 immigrants became citizens during the 2022 fiscal year, as officials caught up on a backlog of pandemic applications. That's the most in nearly 15 years, when more than 1 million became citizens, and the third highest amount ever, according to an analysis by the Pew Research Center. Some 670,000 naturalization applications were still pending last year, according to Pew. That's down from more than 1 million in December 2020, when the pandemic suspension of interviews and naturalization ceremonies, as well as funding issues, contributed to the major backlog. The top 5 countries where the most new citizens came from last year were Cuba, the Philippines, India, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic, according to a report from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. The ranks of naturalized U.S. citizens has nearly tripled from 7.6 million to 22.1 million between 1995 and 2019. Some 9 million immigrants remain legal permanent residents who could be eligible for citizenship, meaning they've been in the U.S. for at least 5 years or 3 years if married to a U.S. citizen. They must also pass background checks and pass a civics and English test as part of the interview process. Immigrants also pay some $725 in government fees to apply, and often pay thousands more for the costs of a lawyer to help navigate the process. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. Why a major cryptocurrency trading platform is being forced to pay a $100 million settlement. The viral track that just became the most streamed song of all time. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
Come out, wherever you
I think my niece Allie was pushed off that ledge. And only one person came into an 8-figure sum as a result of her death.
If we pull this off, we're set for life.
What do you think you're doing?
Get out now.
This be our little secret. They have to pay for what they did.
The Watchful Eye, January 30th on Freeform and stream on Hulu.
Avatar: The Way of Water
is mind-blowing.
You don't know what to expect.
unlike anything you've ever seen.
What will audiences see in this film that they've never seen in a movie before?
We were competing who was going to hold their breath longer.
I made it to 3 minutes.
I think I got to 5.
7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Into the deep with Avatar.
It was just amazing.
Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I have never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend.
Could have been any of us.
I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're gonna love it.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I have never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend.
Could have been any of us.
I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Republican hardliners delivering another embarrassing blow to GOP leader Kevin McCarthy and his bid to become the next House Speaker.
A speaker has not been elected.
The group refusing to coalesce around their conference leader for the 6th time in 2 days. McCarthy unable to reach the crucial 218-vote minimum needed to secure the Speaker's gavel in the Republican-controlled House. Ahead of the vote, McCarthy projecting confidence that he would win eventually.
We're gonna continue to talk, and we'll find an agreement where we all get together and we'll work through this and we'll get it done.
But the anti-McCarthy wing of the party isn't budging. And after the 4th round, McCarthy losing another vote. One of his previous supporters voting present, meaning McCarthy was down to only 201 votes in his favor from 202 yesterday.
A Louisiana police officer was charged in a car crash that killed 2 teenagers on New Year's Eve. Officer David Cawthron of the Addis Police Department was pursuing a suspect when he allegedly ran a red light and crashed into a vehicle at high speed.
The crash killed 17-year-old Maggie Dunn and 16-year-old Caroline Gill and injured Dunn's brother. The victims remembered by their cheerleading team at Brusly High School, as well as by others from their school and community. Cawthron was charged with 2 counts of negligent homicide and 1 of negligent injury. The suspect in the chase, who allegedly stole his father's car, was eventually arrested and charged with 2 counts of manslaughter. Jury selection has begun in Atlanta in the trial of Young Thug. The rapper is facing gang-related charges in a sweeping grand jury indictment. He was among 28 individuals named who were allegedly associated with Young Slime Life, also known as YSL, which prosecutors allege is a gang that Young Thug founded in 2012. The case became notable for using Young Thug's lyrics as part of the evidence in the indictment. Young Thug has pled not guilty to all charges.
2 different cruise ships coming to the rescue of stranded migrants on Monday, as record number of Cuban migrants attempt to make it to Florida. The Carnival celebration coming to the aid of 1 boat 30 miles north of the Cuban coast. It's part of an ongoing humanitarian crisis, which officials describe as unprecedented. Captain Kate McHugh documenting her efforts on board the Celebrity Beyond.
Warm blankets, a change of clothes, something to eat and drink, a full medical evaluation, and the chance to call home to let their loved ones know that they're okay.
Coinbase, the major cryptocurrency trading platform, reached a $100 million settlement with regulators in New York. The agreement follows an investigation into the company by the state's Department of Financial Services, which said it found significant failings in Coinbase's compliance program that left it vulnerable to serious criminal activity. The investigation also found that Coinbase's anti-money laundering program and systems for monitoring transactions and suspicious activity were inadequate for a company of its size. As part of the settlement, the platform will pay a $50 million penalty to the state and invest the remaining $50 million into improving its compliance program.
History for the weekend. Spotify announced that his 2019 hit Blinding Lights has become the most streamed song of all time on the platform. It surpassed Ed Sheeran's 2017 hit Shape of You for the title. Blinding Lights had spent 90 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 chart following its release, holding the record for longest charting song until October. The singer himself had already marked the accomplishment before Spotify's announcement, posting on New Year's Eve, "Happy New Year's to Blinding Lights, the most streamed song of all time."
The mastermind behind the Varsity Blues college cheating scandal was sentenced to 42 months in prison today. Rick Singer pleaded guilty nearly 4 years ago to helping parents of dozens of well-to-do high school students cheat their way into elite universities. Those parents included Hollywood actors Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. Let's bring in Eva Pilgrim now from outside the courthouse in Boston. Eva, this is the culmination of a long and extensive criminal case first made public in March of 2019. Tell us the latest.
Well, today, Rick Singer, the architect behind this scheme, was sentenced to 3.5 years behind bar, as well as 3 years probation. You know, this all started, Lindsay, as a securities fraud investigation, and what authorities found was much more than that. It was this huge scheme that had been going on for the greater part of a decade, and they say they were shocked by just the breadth and audacity of it. He called it the side door in. It included taking bribes, posing as athletes, even photoshopping pictures of some of these students, lying on college applications, cheating on college entrance exams. The prosecution today saying without Rick Singer, this would never have happened. And I spoke with the assistant U.S. attorney today earlier, and he said that this sentence needed to send a message, and he thinks it did just that.
People who were wealthy, people who were famous, people who were connected, people who had the best representation that money could buy, all went to prison and are wearing jumpsuits. And that sends a significant message that fraud and bribery doesn't pay.
And you have to take in mind that there have been over 50 convictions in this case. Singer's lawyer speaking with us outside of the courtroom saying that it was a sobering day for her client, but that he is resilient. He is planning to serve his time, and then he hopes that he'll be able to move forward with his life and do right and focus on trying to help other people. Lindsay.
And you talk about that resilience. I understand that Singer has also taken responsibility and apologized for his actions.
In court today, Lindsay, he read a statement. He said, "I am responsible for my actions and my crimes." And he apologized to the unknowing students, the universities, those that he brought into the scheme, those who he says legitimately worked with him to get their students into college. And now that is in some way tainted. And his family and his friends. He said he was ashamed of himself, and he says that he hopes that he can spend the next phase of his life doing better. You know, in this plea deal that he made, Lindsay, he agreed not to appeal this case. So he is expected to report to begin his prison sentence at the end of February.
All right, Eva Pilgrim for us. Thanks so much, Eva. Students in Paterson, New Jersey are now required to wear masks as they return to class from their winter break. School officials decided that the new year meant that the return of an old policy was necessary. They cited low vaccination rates and the desire to keep kids in classrooms as the reason for the change. This comes after the state reported its second child flu death this season. Masks must be worn inside schools and district buildings until further notice. A car crash on a Northern California cliffside that led to a frantic rescue is now the focus of a criminal investigation. Police say the father of two behind the wheel made the near-fatal plunge on purpose with his family inside. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has the latest.
The passengers of this mangled car somehow are alive after their Tesla plunged more than 250 feet off the side of a cliff south of San Francisco.
We come out here, unfortunately, all too often for things like this, and this was nothing short of a miracle that they survived.
Police say 41-year-old Dharmesh Patel was driving along a dangerous stretch of coastal highway known as Devil's Slide when he purposefully drove off the cliff, sending the car flipping several times before landing on its wheels just steps away from the ocean. In the car with him, police say, were his wife and two children, ages 4 and 9. A dramatic rescue playing out as 3 helicopters and more than 30 rescuers scrambled to reach the mangled vehicle.
We had 300-foot ropes, and we just about maxed them out to get down to those people.
Rescuers pulled the children out of the back window and brought them up the cliff in a rescue basket. The adults suffered more serious injuries and had to be hoisted up the cliff by helicopter. Incredibly, all 4 sustained non-life-threatening injuries and were taken to a local hospital. Police say Patel, a doctor at a Los Angeles hospital, will now be charged with attempted murder and child abuse.
Our thanks to Andrew for that. Some people can be on the kidney transplant list for years. In the meantime, many patients are suffering, playing a dangerous waiting game as their kidney function continues to decline. When a pastor found out that one of his parishioners was in dire need of help, he stepped up to save his life. Reporter Michelle Newell with our partner station WSB in Atlanta has their story.
I was on a list, but so were many, many other people.
Jack Abbott enjoys running, and his pastor has been by his side in a number of races. But a little more than 1 year ago, they were in a different kind of race, trying to cross a much different finish line.
The kidney function was down to 5%, which was, hardly doing anything.
And in January of 2021, he, suffered, episodes relating to his health and COVID that resulted in worsening of his kidney function from an acute illness.
As one of his pastors, I was curious about where his health was and how he was doing.
After realizing how severe Abbott's condition was, Pastor James Slick decided to help.
And he says, so I got 2 kidneys, I'll give you one of mine.
And I just felt like that's what I needed to do.
Their blood type was a perfect match.
I think the biggest question for me was, what is this going to do to me? What's going to happen?
They documented most of their process through pictures.
I'm just now hearing, maybe in the last few months, that Jack, you're looking pretty good. And I'm finally hearing that after, a year.
I'm an example of a person that can say, you can do just fine with 1 kidney.
Abbott is back to doing what he loves with his pastor by his side, crossing finish lines together.
Here, when donors or potential donors hear these stories, it really makes an impact on being able to find as many patients as possible that can come forward for you to potentially be a donor. We are forever grateful for how much of a sacrifice they make to save another person's life through kidney transplantation. So they are truly heroes.
Answered prayer there. Before we go tonight, the image of the day. Love in Las Vegas lights for Buffalo Bills player Demar Hamlin after the Raiders had his name and number put on the video board of Allegiant Stadium. Hamlin continues to recover from cardiac arrest he suffered during Monday night's game. And that's our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. In the next hour, we're staying on top of the extraordinary battle playing out on the House floor. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has now failed to get the support of his party on 6 straight ballots in his quest to become Speaker. We have a team of correspondents and analysts standing by as the House reconvenes. Next.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
After an extraordinary news-making year, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi! Is this mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right, they don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasure that day. I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
From America's #1 news source comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and it can customize to you and your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience what all the buzz is about. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now. We're honored ABC's 2020 winner of 3 Emmy Awards for excellence. Thank you for making 2020 Friday night's most watched and most honored news magazine.
Avatar: The Way of Water is mind-blowing.
You don't know what to expect.
Unlike anything you've ever seen.
What will audiences see in this film that they've never seen in a movie before?
We were competing who was going to hold their breath longer.
I made it to 3 minutes.
I think I got to 5.
7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Into the Deep with Avatar.
It was just amazing.
Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
Big breath.
Zen.
Yes. Welcome to my ranch. Packs should get along like a happy family. People mistake an excited dog for a happy dog. My German just told her, your energy is not healthy. A little more confidence, less nervous talk, better leash work.
I could imagine you there, and you're kind of like my spirit guide.
I feel like I'm the boss again.
Yes, calm, confident. There you go.
This is where I belong. This is home. Real dirt in the sunlight again. I'm very excited. Anything could happen at any moment. My heart is so happy right now. We're making magic. We're making magic.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin this hour with a live look at the House of Representatives, where any moment the House is expected to gavel back in session after 6 rounds of failed votes for the next Speaker of the House. Right now, Kevin McCarthy still does not have the 218 votes needed to get the job. This process has gone on now for 2 full days, and until a Speaker is elected, the House cannot conduct any other official business, and new members cannot be sworn in. We're learning new details, though, about what might be about to happen. Let's go right to Rachel Scott live from Capitol Hill. Rachel, just give us the state of play at this hour and whether McCarthy has made any progress on getting the votes that he needs.
Yeah, well, Lindsay, we have breaking news just coming in because Kevin McCarthy just exited his office moments ago, and he told our team that at this point he does feel like they are making progress, but he said he doesn't believe it would be productive to have another vote tonight. So that is a big indicator that there might be a push to try to adjourn the House tonight and then come back in tomorrow for what would be another round of votes. At this point, he's still trying to reach these conservative members who have voted against him. Right now, 20. He can only lose 4 members from his own party. The challenge for McCarthy here is that these Republicans are not really on the same page about their demands. For some, it's all about more positions on committees. They want certain bills on the floor. But for others, this is really personal. And even those who are supporting McCarthy, I can tell you, I talked to members that are supporting him. They feel like time here is running out. They want to see a deal sooner rather than later. Otherwise, they say it is time for Republicans to start considering another person. So at this point, we haven't seen anyone that has opposed him come out and say now that they're suddenly backing him. Of course, those were the moments that we'll be watching for on the floor. But as of right now, it doesn't appear this is heading toward another vote tonight, Lindsay.
I don't know if you're aware of this yet, Rachel, but do you have any sense if any concessions or any deals are underway that might sway a few of those 20?
Yeah, well, listen, there has already been some major concessions made by Kevin McCarthy. He has actually made it easier to remove him from the position of Speaker if he were to be elected. But some conservatives want him to go even further. Right now, the motion to vacate, as it called, would be 5 members. Some conservatives want that down to 1. We don't know if McCarthy has agreed to that just yet. We know that some conservatives are also calling for certain bills to be on the floor to protect the border. They want certain committee assignments. And again, that is what is going to be hard for McCarthy here, because it's not all 20 of them united around a certain list of demands. You have some Republicans that want one thing, some Republicans that want another thing, and other Republicans just want him completely gone at this point. So he's trying to chip away at this support, but it's unclear right now what concessions are going to be made. But one thing is clear. He is going to have to budge. Someone's going to have to budge, because they have been in this bitter standoff now now for 2 days, 6 failed votes. At this point, everyone here is wondering just how much longer could this drag on.
And Rachel, again, I'm asking you to kind of pull out your crystal ball here with all of this. We've heard names like Steve Scalise bandied about, of course, Kevin McCarthy's number 2. Have you heard any more rumblings about that? Or I know that when you last asked McCarthy, he said he's not bowing out. He's still, there clearly in the office with no plans on moving out. I know people have called him a squatter, you talked about this morning. But any sense that somebody else might step forward?
Yeah, I mean, McCarthy is defiant as ever. I spoke with him last night after that series of failed votes. He told me there is no scenario in which he is backing out of this speaker's race. And then after this round of failed votes, I caught him going into his office again, and I asked him the same question. Is there a scenario in which you're going to back out? Are you still in this fight? He said yes. He said he's confident that he will actually get there. But Republicans are starting to float other options if McCarthy cannot reach the number of votes that he needs in order to be the next Speaker of the House. So you mentioned Steve Scalise. That is his number 2. He has obviously been supporting McCarthy through these multiple rounds of voting. But I have learned that there are some members that are opposed to Kevin McCarthy that could get around a Steve Scalise. Other members are being a little shy about saying publicly who they would actually support, trying not to tank their chances. But most Republicans here believe that if it's not going to be Kevin McCarthy, that there could be consensus around another Republican in the conference. McCarthy, though, I can tell you completely disagrees, because when I talked to him last night before leaving the Capitol, he said, look, even though he doesn't have the votes right now, he does have the support of the majority of the conference. And that is something that no other person right now that has been nominated has at this point in the Republican Party. So he sees this as he's closer than ever. He's closer than any other of these names that are being floated. But still, bottom line, he is really not there yet. And I will say that the opposition from some of the conservatives, even after former President Donald Trump came out and spoke highly of McCarthy. They spoke last night again. Even some of the staunch conservatives like Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, they left the meeting with McCarthy today and they said they are still a hard no, Lindsay.
We just saw an image a little while ago, Rachel, of a politician who was massaging his temples, and I think that kind of says it all better than any words could. Rachel, thank you. Perhaps we're going to join you again in a little bit. Right now, I'd like to go to ABC News contributor and former Republican Congressman Tom Graves of Georgia, who joins us now as we're waiting, perhaps, for them to gavel in. It seems like the gavel is in hand. We've seen the Congress doing the Pledge of Allegiance, but we're going to keep talking to you for a moment until we actually see some of the action. Oh, apparently they are voting to adjourn. So just as quickly as it has started, it appears that it's over. So let me just ask you, while we have you, watching this all unfold, any sense how this could ultimately play out? Do you see a scenario where McCarthy gets the votes that he needs?
Well, first, I mean, looking at this adjournment, at least that's an agreement. You know, Republicans and Democrats and conservatives and others all in agreement on one thing here tonight. So that's positive, right? There's really about 3 outcomes that can occur. And number one, and that there is an agreement, negotiations move forward well tonight, and that there's a good faith agreement, and everybody comes back tomorrow and supports Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. The other option is he strikes a deal with Democrats on the other side. Now, I'd say that's an option. It's a very unlikely option, but clearly that is one scenario, and he garners enough votes to get him to the threshold he needs. And then the last and again unlikely option is that he withdraws his name and he puts his support behind somebody else that he knows can get the full support of the conference. So those are sort of the 3 scenarios that lay out there, whether it's tomorrow or over the next days or weeks, that you might see. But I think there are some key people you should watch, and that's number one, Jim Jordan, who was nominated yesterday. He had a lot of support. Wasn't nominated today, and he's been very quiet, right? You know, you haven't seen him anywhere. He hasn't been very vocal in opposition or in support of McCarthy, from what I can tell. Another person is Representative Cole from Oklahoma. He's the one I think that might have moved to adjourn tonight, and he's a very close confidant of Kevin McCarthy, and he's a person that can lead and direct where this may go. He's the kind of person that would sit with Kevin McCarthy and talk about those options in a very well-reasoned way and lead him through what those steps might be. And then lastly, obviously, is the leader, Steve Scalise, and he's certainly a key player that had interestingly enough, full support of the entire conference in the leadership elections and was unopposed. And that's a unique statistic in the Republican conference to have right now.
So here's a big if for you, Congressman McCarthy. If he's able to get the votes, is there any way that he can effectively govern and actually be in charge and lead this group, especially given all the concessions that he's made to these hardliners?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what you are seeing yesterday and today is what governing might look like in the future. It's a forecast of what it would look like with the same member of Congress. They're actually sworn in with voting cards, making bigger, tougher decisions. A speaker vote is a tough decision. It's a big decision, but it only impacts their lives, right? The House of Representatives. When they're casting a vote on a piece of legislation that's over 300 million people being impacted, or in particular their district, how it might be impacted. So governing is going to be rather difficult. No matter who's the next speaker is, it's going to be a challenge. I can see that.
And what about alternatives to McCarthy? I mean, you touched on this already, but do you think that Republicans who have backed him could effectively move their support to someone else if this continues to drag out?
Yeah, what I know from how this vote is occurring and the loyalty to Kevin McCarthy, you have those ardent supporters who are going to fight hard for him. And you have those obviously that are opposed to him. They're going to fight hard against him. But then there's the majority of the conference that is supporting the nominee of the Republican conference, the Republican Party in this moment. They're going to support Kevin as long as he is the nominee. But if in the event that he were to decide not to be that and offer his support behind somebody else, he in essence releases them to go and vote for the next nominee. So, but that's how I see that shaking out is folks, they would support somebody else when Kevin is not the nominee, or if he is not the nominee, I should say.
What do you think that the long-term impact is of all this on the Republican caucus? Does it undermine what they're actually going to be able to accomplish in the next 2 years?
I mean, the next 2 years are limited, and quite frankly, expectations are part of the challenge here. There's large expectations from conservatives who have been campaigning in very difficult primaries, very challenging and spirited primaries, that they would do certain things if elected and if given the majority. The challenge for them today is that the majority is slim, it's diverse, and it's only in the House of Representatives. So the things they may love and may support and may get rallied behind as Republicans, much like the Democrats dealt with, quite frankly, in the last Congress, they might pass it out of the House partisan, it comes back bipartisan, and then it passes out of the House bipartisan to go to the Democrat president. When that reality sets in later this year, when there's a debt limit, there's government funding, there's other key measures that have to be dealt with, that's when you're going to see some of these kind of battles rise up again.
Former Congressman Tom Graves, we thank you so much for your time and insight tonight. And now we're joined by political director Rick Klein. So Rick, what's your forecast here? At this hour, do you see any end game to this?
I think the end game is going home for the night. Looks like Republicans have found unity in that very slim and narrow concept of not voting again on a speaker candidate when they recognize that they haven't healed the divisions in their ranks. There was a pretty significant development in the last hour or so. It's sort of weedsy. It's a little bit for an inside baseball game here. But basically, the outside group that Kevin McCarthy uses to support congressional candidates has made an agreement with the much more conservative group to not play in primaries that are Republican-heavy districts. What had been happening is that Kevin McCarthy's group had gone into these places where basically any Republican could win and tried to find a moderate candidate. But the Club for Growth, the more conservative group, has said wait, that's an opportunity to find a true blue conservative, someone more in line with the MAGA agenda in recent years. So it's something of a ceasefire between those outside groups that has now freed up the Club for Growth to say that it supports Kevin McCarthy. Again, this isn't by itself a deal maker, but I think it is a significant movement and maybe the only significant public concession that we've seen from McCarthy and his political forces in the last day and a half of this voting.
And what are we seeing right now play out with this? It seems like there is still this vote that's on the table, this motion to adjourn. Is this not finalized yet at this hour?
Well, what happened is they came back after 8 o'clock, and as Rachel noted, Kevin McCarthy had said he didn't want to vote again. The problem is the House was already scheduled to vote, and because it hasn't really organized yet, that was the motion that was on the table. So it took another motion to adjourn. Typically, things like that just get unanimous consent, and everyone goes home and goes to bed early, or maybe goes out and has a nice meal. But in this case, the Democrats said, wait, we don't want to let you off the hook that easy. We're here. We're ready to vote. They've been happy to vote for Hakeem Jeffries in all of these votes. They would love to keep this going and keep the Republicans twisting in the wind. So far, though, it looks like most Republicans are in agreement that there's nothing else productive going to happen tonight.
And you were talking about, again, the weeds, the inside baseball with the Club for Growth and the potential concessions made there with the money. But it seems that there still are not enough people, even if he's able to kind of twist a few arms, if you will. It seems like there are those hard no's, the people who are the never Kevins, that he still wouldn't be able to win over. And so if we get to that point, then what?
That's right, Lindsay. It's not a fair fight. Keep in mind, Kevin McCarthy needs 218 votes. The Never Kevin votes just need to be at 5. And if they can stay at that very small number, right now they're at around 20, they can deny Kevin McCarthy the speakership essentially forever. So that is an imbalance that Kevin McCarthy is trying to test. Frankly, it's a source of major frustration in the McCarthy end of things. They feel like they are negotiating with themselves when they put things out there that lower the threshold where you could try to replace him or change any of the rules or regulations or the committee makeups. All of that, none of that has made any difference at all in these votes. And maybe that stubbornness backfires on that band of 20 Republicans, or maybe it has to be recognized as just a reality, which means that Kevin McCarthy can never be Speaker. That's the untested proposition. These negotiations are aimed at saying, wait a second, can we start to peel off those numbers? Can that 20 start to go down? When you realize there are a few that are probably truly never, ever Kevin, are there a few that might be negotiable? Are there deals to be cut? It's not like Kevin McCarthy hasn't been trying before, but this is a time for any rabbits that he might have in the hat.
Yeah, it's going to take some magic tricks, it seems. So, Rick, we've been talking, kind of in the weeds inside baseball there, but I really have like a layman question, which is the fact that it would seem that Kevin McCarthy knew he didn't have the votes when he moved into the Speaker's office. Was that totally presumptuous? I mean, why would he make such a bold move when he knew he hadn't cleared the ultimate hurdle just yet?
It's such a fascinating symbol of what seems to be presumptuousness. Bottom line, it's been 100 years since this ever happened, and the custom has been when there is a new Congress convening, they don't wait for the formality of a vote for House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy was already elected the Republican leader. He is, by consensus, by presumption, that he was likely to become the next Speaker. They let everyone move in a few days early, the same way that those members of Congress, even though they haven't been sworn in, they've taken over that office space. So this was his office space. There was nothing unusual about that, but at the same time, his name wasn't actually etched on the door quite yet, and that fact has become glaringly obvious to McCarthy and everyone around him, and it has become a powerful symbol of McCarthy assuming that he had support that he didn't. And truly, the unfathomable, unthinkable thing for a lot of people that are watching this is how you could have allowed the calendar to advance all the way to yesterday, the date that everyone knew was on the calendar. This was the date the House would convene. This was the date for the election of the Speaker, and not have the votes locked down. There's been behind-the-scenes battles for speakerships in the past. A lot of people on the Democratic side were skeptical of Nancy Pelosi a couple times that she ran, but she always locked that down before they showed up. And once they started voting, it locks those members in, and it becomes much harder for them to change their minds. And whether that is, maybe it was always going to happen, it was never going to be any different. You're exactly right that the fact that he'd already moved into the office space is symbolic of some of the mistakes that may have been made in the run-up to this pretty extraordinary 2 days.
And one other question for you, Rick. So it seems to me that it's a little counterintuitive to allow people who are still congressmen-elect, who are not yet sworn in, to actually vote. Am I wrong, or is this backwards?
No, you're totally right. Everything about this is weird, and it's a reminder of how much of the House process is basically built on a tradition and the way things have been done in the past, as opposed to anything that might be found in an actual manual. The great thing about being a legislative body like the House of Representatives is you basically get to make your own rules. And they are there by dint of having been certified as Congress members-elect. The formality of the swearing in does matter, and I think any action that this House were to take without a swearing in would potentially be called into question. But the internal workings around this, around even a vote to adjourn and the votes for Speaker, they can't happen without the actual swearing in. It is a strange little quirk. Again, it hasn't been tested in a century because this has always been something that just happens as basically a formality, a celebratory event. One side votes for its members, the other side votes for the other. Someone is the Speaker, the other one's the minority leader, and then everyone goes and takes pictures and celebrates with their family and gets to work the next day. Now we're 2 days in. None of that has happened. It's been a massive waste of time and expense and resources and brain power around this. And yes, very much in uncharted territory.
Rick Klein, our political director, we thank you so much for your insight and time tonight. For those of you who've been watching, you can see Kevin McCarthy on the screen there. He's been smiling and slapping backs and shaking hands and looking very celebratory and high energy there. ABC's Jay O'Brien is at the Capitol. He joins us now from the Hill. So, Jay, you've been tracking this all day. Since yesterday. What's being said on the Democratic side of the aisle? Are they just kind of sitting back enjoying the show at this point?
Yeah, well, Lindsay, they're watching this play out, obviously. They've blamed Republicans for disarray. There was a press conference earlier with House Democratic leaders. They said that this is a, quote, crisis of Congress, saying that Congress can't do anything until the Republicans agree to a Speaker of the House, which is true. The House floor is paralyzed in a sense. You can't bring anything else to the floor. You can't form committees. You can't do anything the House is designed to do until you pick a Speaker of the House. That is how it goes. Tonight, and you're seeing this play out right now on the floor, we're seeing Democrats oppose this motion to adjourn. There are no rules in the House until you pick a Speaker. That's one of the things that comes from the paralyzed House. So you have to have a majority vote on everything. And in this case, you're seeing the majority decide whether or not they want to take a break. So Democrats are opposing that because, as Rick pointed to a moment ago, they want to see this continue to go on, ballot after ballot after ballot, with Republicans still opposing each other and Kevin McCarthy not meeting the threshold he needs, that 218 votes, to become the next Speaker of the House. Republicans, for their part, are saying that this is democracy playing out before your very eyes, that democracy is messy. But I can tell you privately, we are hearing from McCarthy allies who are pressing, and publicly for that matter as well, who are pressing those never McCarthy members of Congress, saying, look what this is causing. It's delaying our day one agenda in the Congress, and let's get some kind of a deal to move forward. The question is, what does Kevin McCarthy have to offer this opposition? Do they want it? I've heard from some members of that opposition who say there's nothing Kevin McCarthy can offer them to earn their vote. Others appear to be in a deal-making mood, but we'll see if it works out tonight. Certainly, he does not have the votes this evening to become the next Speaker of the House. It's why you're seeing leadership move to adjourn and come back at this again tomorrow, Lindsay.
And you talked about how the Democrats like to see this play out this way, and they want the vote to continue happening even tonight. Give us an understanding of why that is. Why is this advantageous, or why do Democrats believe that this is advantageous to continue seeing the same outcome over and over again?
Well, their position is that it's the Republicans' mess to clean up, and that they're not going to bail Republicans out with Democratic votes. The chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Pete Aguilar, got that exact question this afternoon at a press conference he held. I was there, and he was asked, do you know of any Democrats that will join with Republicans and try to elect some kind of a consensus Speaker, or cross the aisle and work to vote Kevin McCarthy into the Speaker's chair? And he said he is not aware of those conversations. Again, that was earlier on in the day. Things could change, but the sense that we're getting is that there are no Democrats that want to work to bail Republicans out, that this is their mess, that they have to clean up, they have to coalesce around a candidate. And we are certainly seeing that the Never McCarthy group is coalescing around a candidate with their 20 votes. They're coalescing right now around Byron Donalds, although the candidate could change into tomorrow, because yesterday their protest candidate was Jim Jordan. And we're seeing, of course, the pro-McCarthy group gaggle around Kevin McCarthy. We'll see if that continues into tomorrow, Lindsay.
And so the murmurings, I suppose, Jay, are still right now all focused on McCarthy. They're not trying to find that other protest candidate, as you describe them.
Well, and that's Kevin McCarthy's point of view, certainly, is that he does not view there to be another Republican successor waiting in the wings, or another Republican that can get the same kind of support as he's gotten. But the one thing that I've been hearing from particularly the anti-McCarthy crowd is they are of the belief that there is someone who could step in and become a consensus pick amongst the Republicans for Speaker, but they don't want to come out too much into the sunlight for the risk of angering the only McKevin group of this conference, which have said that they will vote for Kevin McCarthy on every single ballot. You can imagine there's roughly 5 of them, and as we've seen, if you have 5 votes, if you're a Republican opposing your bid to become Speaker of the House, that's fatal, and it injures your bid to become Speaker, and it derails you, and we go ballot after ballot after ballot. Now, who that pick is unclear, and no one seems to have settled on an exact name, and certainly no one has made themselves a contender to Kevin McCarthy. Even Byron Donalds, who is right now the protest candidate, he's gotten 20 votes plus his own vote, or including his own vote, has said that he doesn't want to be Speaker of the House. Jim Jordan, who got 20 votes yesterday, has said he doesn't want to be Speaker of the House. Jordan even nominated McCarthy. So the people who are getting votes from the anti-McCarthy crowd openly say they don't want to become the next speaker. The question that hangs over that anti-McCarthy group tonight is, can they find someone by tomorrow morning who does want to become the next speaker? That's confronted by the same question that Kevin McCarthy faces, which is, can he offer this crowd something overnight tonight to get their support by the morning when we come back and do this all again at noon? Or do we still go ballot after ballot after ballot? He's on the clock now, Lindsay.
We've seen a little bit of applause from time to time. We do see that the yay and nay votes are very close. This is, again, the vote to adjourn for the night, so we haven't come to definitive agreement on that just yet. Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill, we thank you so much. I want to bring back in our former Congressman Tom Graves, who I believe is still with us. Congressman, what would happen if they do agree to adjourn for tonight? What then happens tomorrow? We go back at this again at some point tomorrow and try to vote?
Yeah, so an adjournment tonight just creates an air gap in which there can be more conversations. And, you know, some might ask, well, why do you need more time? You've had a couple of months, right, since the election really to work this out. But when you get to the end, whether it's a piece of legislation or voting on leadership or such a speaker here, it all squeezes towards the end, and it's a pressure point. And so the adjournments to me are a couple of different signs. One is, okay, we're making progress. We just need a little bit more time.
Congressman, if I could just pause you just for one moment. We're just going to dip in, take a live listen in to what's happening on the floor.
On this vote, the yeas are 200. On this vote, the yeas are 216. The nays are 214. Accordingly, the motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until noon tomorrow.
Okay, so there we have it, Congressman. The House is going to bite 2 votes. The skin of their teeth there. They are adjourning until noon tomorrow. And I had interrupted you. I just wanted you to get a chance to complete your thought.
No, sure. That was important to see. So a couple of things there. That means, you know, they're likely in a spot where they're making progress. They just need some more time. And, you know, they want to work through the evening to finalize something, to, you know, get everything prepared for tomorrow. Now, the assumption is they do reach an agreement. And if they were to reach an agreement, keep in mind it's an agreement between Kevin McCarthy and potentially 20 other people. But then there are 201 other Republicans, right? So you have to socialize whatever the agreement is and hope that everybody can be in agreement with it. So Kevin, in essence, is negotiating on behalf of the other 200 members of the conference with 20 other people, and that can be a challenge, right? So he reaches an agreement, but do the other 200 actually fall in line and agree with that and support it as well? Now, the other thing that adjournment can mean tonight is that they're making zero progress. There's no sense in going through the effort tonight to just get the same results. We all know what it's going to be. Let's take a pause, take a breath, and let's try it again tomorrow. So that could be the adjournment. But a key factor to, on this vote, this was the first vote that has been Republicans versus Democrats. And so Republicans actually had a win tonight. It's a small win, right? But small wins lead to bigger wins. And this was a win for Kevin McCarthy. It was his request for adjournment, and Republicans defeated Democrats on that motion. Interesting little thought there.
Yeah, and, a way to be positive for the Republicans having a bit of a victory here. If they had stayed, as the Democrats were proposing, do you think there would have been any benefit? I'm asking this because earlier tonight we talked to Congressman Gonzalez, and he said, hey, we should just lock ourselves in the room and fight it out until we get, until we see the white smoke. That he felt that there would ultimately be some benefit in staying as long as it takes and, potentially pulling an all-nighter. Do you think that there would be some benefit to that?
No, that really doesn't work in an environment that's as dynamic as this. And there's a lot of emotions involved. And some would say that, Kevin was doing really well going into this week. And then they had that conference meeting on Monday morning, I guess it was, or Tuesday morning, before the vote. And that's when things, went sideways a little bit more. And it was because emotions were flaring. Things were said, taken potentially out of context or misheard or misreported, whatever. And it creates a perception that could be false. And so it's generally better to isolate the conversations to those that are of most impact and can, quite frankly, change the outcomes. And that would be the smaller groups. One thing I do find that's fascinating here is that I've heard some report and some say, look, this is 20 people against 202 people in the Republican conference. It's really not. It's really 20 people versus one. And there happens to be 201 others that are caught in the middle of it. And so this 20 group and this one, those are the ones that have to work this out.
That's a really good way of looking at it. And perhaps you're right that this is just about sleeping on it and letting cooler heads prevail tomorrow. Congressman, we thank you so much again for your time and insight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the coverage tonight.
And now I want to bring back in Jay O'Brien, who remains at the Hill. Are you getting any sense? I'm not sure if everybody has left the actual floor, if they're out and circulating about in the building, but any mood or color that you might be able to provide now that they have adjourned?
Well, this is, as Representative Graves just put it, this is a win for the McCarthy team. It is a small win, but it's a step in the right direction. And here's why, Lindsay. You need a majority under this. When you don't have a Speaker of the House, you don't have any rules governing the House floor. So you need a majority to do anything. And in this case, you need a majority to decide to take a break until tomorrow at noon, which is what the House just did. So Kevin McCarthy and his leadership team said, we want to adjourn. We want to spend the rest of the night negotiating. We don't want to vote. So their priority was to vote. Democrats wanted to block that. And the Never McCarthy Republicans could have come out in stronger force against this motion to adjourn and potentially deprive Republicans of this break that they wanted, deprive their fellow Republicans of this break that they wanted. Instead, Republicans largely staying in lockstep, deciding to adjourn. Again, it's very inside baseball, but it does go to the broader point that there are small incremental gains here for the McCarthy team. They got this motion to adjourn. McCarthy and his allies are saying that these negotiations are making progress. They have a long night ahead of them of talking to that Never McCarthy faction right now to decide if there's anything that they can offer to switch their votes or to pick up the 20 votes that are voting against Kevin McCarthy on ballot after ballot after ballot now. Again, he's got a long way to go here, Lindsay, but this is a step in the right direction for him. And in all frankness, after repeated ballots, after 30-plus hours of this is the cleanest win he has had so far since noon yesterday.
But I just want to push back on that to really kind of understand, Jay, what you mean, because on Tuesday, they had the same level of agreement, right? That they were going to adjourn and come back and vote today, Wednesday at noon, which they did, and he still didn't have the votes several more times. And so today, it seems like it's Groundhog's Day all over again, right? That they've agreed to adjourn and they're going to come back and vote again tomorrow at noon. So is there any indication that there's any headway or any advantage for Kevin McCarthy other than that he has more time to try to convince people who have said that they're not going to change their minds?
Well, this was the first vote to adjourn that Democrats tried to block and failed. Yesterday, everybody was all on the same page and saying, let's get out of here. Now, Democrats tried to block it, and they didn't get enough support, and they didn't have enough Republicans say, no, we want to keep voting as well. But to your broader point, you're exactly right, is that Kevin McCarthy has not picked up a single vote on repeated ballot after ballot after ballot. And we have not heard from any member right now who is voting against Kevin McCarthy who has come out publicly and say, now I'm for Kevin McCarthy. And that was something we saw as the afternoon progressed. We saw repeated ballots and no members switch. In fact, we saw one member decide to vote present, take her vote away from Kevin McCarthy and vote present, not vote for another candidate for speaker, but vote present, which again deprives Kevin McCarthy of that one vote. But we haven't heard of anyone switch back to Kevin McCarthy. Again, he's got the evening to get that job done, but you're right in the sense that he's got a long way to go, and he does not right now have the votes or even any semblance that he's going to get the votes to get there. There's got to be some kind of a deal overnight if he wants to have progress tomorrow morning, or at least some kind of a deal tomorrow morning before the voting begins in the afternoon. He is on the clock, and right now we're hearing from some of the Never McCarthy lawmakers, that core 5 of Never McCarthy lawmakers who came out right after the election and said, we are opposing Kevin McCarthy. Some of them are saying there is nothing Kevin McCarthy can do to earn their vote. Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert being the most vocal of them. If you have enough members saying that there is no concession that they want from Kevin McCarthy, there are not enough right now saying that, but eventually if you get enough members saying that, that is a tough position to be in for Kevin McCarthy, because it means you have nothing left to deal with, Lindsay.
Jay O'Brien, excellent coverage tonight from Capitol Hill. Thank you so much. And we just heard the House stands adjourned until noon tomorrow. We'll see if the 7th round of voting happens at that time. Stay with us. Much more coming up after the break.
How often do these organs end up in American bodies? What are the secrets that most people don't know?
You should be very careful.
Let me see your ID card. Wait.
This is a world you will have to live in. There's no going back.
Bring them on. If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place as spectacular as, well, me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends. Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom, boom, boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom! Now that's how you start your day, people.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I've never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend.
Could have been any of us.
I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Ready for a good show? I'm Phil Grucci of Fireworks by Grucci.
No matter how big, no matter how small.
It is dangerous.
It's not a paycheck, it's our life.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, the hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
Hi there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. Law enforcement is now offering $500,000 for any information leading to the arrest of the suspect accused of placing 2 bite bombs outside of Democratic and Republican national headquarters one day before the January 6th insurrection nearly 2 years ago. While wearing a sweatshirt with the hood pulled up, a pair of Air Max Nikes, a backpack, and gloves, the suspect walked through Capitol Hill alleyways equipped with what investigators say were 2 live pipe bombs. They did not detonate County. The case has perplexed federal and local law enforcement ever since, and they continue to ask for the public's help. A Southern California man has been arrested for attempted murder and child abuse after California Highway Patrol officials say that he intentionally drove a Tesla off of a cliff with his wife and 2 children inside the car. All 4 people were miraculously successfully rescued from the car and taken to the local hospital with serious injuries. The driver of the car will be booked into San Mateo County Jail upon his release from the hospital. Oklahoma entered settlement agreements with 3 major pharmacy chains and an opioid manufacturer totaling more than $226 million. Nearly all of the settlement funds must be used to help remediate the effects of the opioid crisis in Oklahoma, including prevention and treatment services. These settlements are the latest in a wave of deals that state and local governments have struck with companies. And now we head out west to the megastorm that's taking aim at the Bay Area and the entire state of California. A state of emergency there tonight as the National Weather Service is calling it a life-threatening bomb cyclone. And in Sacramento, there are major concerns as crews are still working to repair levees that were breached over the weekend from the last storm. That's where Amola Lengi is reporting from for us tonight.
Tonight, California's governor declaring a state of emergency, and the warnings couldn't be more dire.
This may be one of the most challenging and impactful series of storms to touch down in California in the last 5 years.
The storm promising to be even stronger than the one that inundated neighborhoods, flooded businesses up to their windows, and washed out roads over the weekend. The ground still saturated. High winds now more likely to bring down trees. Our Ginger Z is south of San Francisco.
The winds will gust 50 to 70 miles per hour. These waves could climb as high as 30 feet. But you'll also have training rain, meaning it'll ride over basically a train track, the same place as getting inundated.
People racing to prepare.
We have our generators ready. We have flashlights. We're ready to go. Candles, just in case.
The last storm compromised multiple levees in Sacramento County, flooding roads and homes, including Vic Chadas. Concerned now that this other storm's coming through?
Yeah, I am. Those trees along that driveway, if one of them goes down, even though we might not flood, you can't get out.
That system crossing the country, dumping more than a foot of snow in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Overnight, a Delta flight sliding off a taxiway after landing at the airport there. And in Montgomery, Alabama, a possible tornado damaging more than 50 homes and businesses. 2 people hurt.
Just such massive devastation and destruction there. Thanks to Mola for that. The suspect in the New Year's Eve attack on police officers near Times Square has been arraigned on attempted murder charges from his hospital bed. Prosecutors shared terrifying details of the suspect's desire to, quote, kill an officer in uniform. ABC's Aaron Katersky has the chilling details for us tonight.
Tonight, authorities say the 19-year-old from Maine charged in the New Year's Eve knife attack on 3 police officers near Times Square had plans to carry out jihad in New York and beyond. Prosecutors allege Trevor Bickford, who sources say was on an FBI watch list after his mother reported he'd been radicalized, intended to travel across the United States and had purchased a train ticket to Miami, determined to target government officials and officers in uniform.
He knew what he was doing. He knew why he was doing it.
Bickford allegedly confessing, newly unsealed court records quoting him saying, I wanted to kill an officer in uniform. I saw the officer and waited until he was alone. I said, Allahu Akbar. I walked up and hit him over the head. I charged another officer but dropped the knife, and I tried to get the police officer's gun but couldn't. The suspect was taken into custody after being shot on the shoulder by police, today appearing before a judge virtually from his hospital bed. The mayor praising those officers.
Those officers discharged 1 round. Concerned about the safety of everyone that was there, they immediately terminated the threat.
Thanks to Aaron Katersky for that. Tonight, the suspect in the murder of 4 Idaho college students is back in Idaho. Moved from a Pennsylvania jail early this morning. Now we're learning new details about what happened when suspect Brian Koberger was pulled over by police during a cross-country drive with his dad back in December. Here's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, stunning new images showing a second traffic stop police made in Indiana, pulling over Idaho murder suspect Brian Koberger and his dad during their 2,500-mile road trip to Pennsylvania.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh. We're going to be going to Pennsylvania. Oh, okay.
We're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Kohlberger's dad trying to explain they're punchy because they'd been driving for days from Washington State University, even bringing up another crime on that campus that had rattled them. It was unrelated to the nearby Idaho murders.
Oh, it's horrifying because he's going to the university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
The father telling police Brian is a PhD in criminal justice, and the officer lets him go.
Okay. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right, thank you. Appreciate you.
Minutes later, an Indiana trooper pulls them over again for tailgating, both stops ending with only a warning. Tonight, the suspect in the murder of those 4 college students is now on his way to Idaho. His return paving the way for authorities to unseal the arrest warrant describing the evidence against him.
I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents.
Police have not said whether they believe Kohlberger knew the victims, but we're learning more about his movements near the University of Idaho in the months leading up to the murders.
Law enforcement in Pullman and Moscow had no prior history with this guy.
I think we had a traffic stop with him at one point in time. I think we gave a seatbelt ticket.
In the white Elantra?
Yes.
That traffic stop in Moscow back in August, 3 months before the murders.
Our thanks to Kana for that. Now to the NFL and news on Buffalo Bills safety Demar Hamlin, who remains in intensive care tonight after suffering cardiac arrest on the field during the team's Monday night football game. Today, Hamlin's family said his condition is moving in a positive direction. Alex Perez reports tonight once again from Cincinnati.
Tonight, as Demar Hamlin battles for his life, loved ones who have been by his bedside finally getting an encouraging update.
We've gotten good news. We heard from the doctors, and what they were wanting to see from him overnight, they were pleased with. We don't know how long this medical journey is going to be for him, but right now things are moving in a positive direction.
The horrific incident during Monday Night Football, the 24-year-old Buffalo Bills safety collapsing and suffering cardiac arrest after taking a hit to the chest during this tackle against the Cincinnati Bengals. Medics rushing in, performing CPR for 10 agonizing minutes, restoring his heartbeat on the field.
They are intensely working on Demar Hamlin.
Hamlin's agent telling ESPN his oxygen levels have improved, but Hamlin remains sedated and in critical condition. NFL executive and former player Troy Vincent emotional, breaking down as he thanked those fast-acting first responders.
You gave our brother Demar another day to live, another chance to fight.
The NFL saying this weekend's games will go on, but there's been no decision on when or if the suspended game will be played. The Bengals head coach says the focus remains on Hamlin's recovery.
All everyone's hoping for is the best case scenario with Demar.
Our thanks to Alex for that. Still to come, the comments from the Ayatollah of Iran on the possibility of changing hijab rules in the country. How country star Winona Judd is responding to concerns from her fans about her well-being in the wake of a great loss. But first, a look at the new docuseries Death in the Dorms. It tells the stories of 6 college students whose lives were tragically cut short. One of them, 18-year-old Christian Aguilar, who disappeared from the University of Florida back in 2012.
That was on a Friday, at 9 o'clock in the morning. I received a phone call, and it was my wife on the phone. She told me that Erica just called her. Christian didn't go to sleep in his room, and that he was missing for almost 8 hours already. And he says he's not answering, so I stopped talking to my wife. I immediately called his number. It went to voice message. Then I keep calling him, he didn't answer. Christian always answered. So that got us more worried. I decided, okay, I'm gonna take Alexander, Claudia, and I'm heading to Gainesville.
to withdraw me from school midday without any reason was kind of, you know, out of his nature. By the time I got to him, he just broke down. He was mumbling, crying. I couldn't really understand, but he just said something happened to Chris. We picked up my mom and just headed straight from Doral to Gainesville.
Avatar: The Way of Water
is mind-blowing.
You don't know what to expect.
Unlike anything you've ever seen.
What will audiences see in this film that they've never seen in a movie before?
We were competing who was gonna hold their breath longer.
I made it to 3 minutes.
I think I got to 5.
7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Into the deep with Avatar.
It was just amazing.
Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi!
This mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial breaks.
Right, they don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasure that day.
I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. With a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Can I hug you?
Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. Ayatollah Khamenei met with a group of prominent Iranian women to address a variety of issues related to women, including wearing hijabs. Khomeini described the hijab as a Sharia-mandated necessity and said the hijab is, quote, undoubtedly an inviolable necessity, but this inviolable necessity should not cause those who do not fully observe hijab to be accused of being irreligious or counter-revolutionary. However, even if the mandatory hijab is over, it means nothing to protesters. The sole demand of protesters is overthrowing the regime. Police doused protesters with pepper spray in Peru as anti-government demonstrations restarted after a brief pause the past few weeks. In the capital city of Lima, demonstrators tried to reach the Congress to demand representatives step down. Peru is set to hold early elections in an attempt to defuse a national political crisis marked by deadly unrest after lawmakers ousted former President Pedro Castillo. 4 gay couples have asked India's Supreme Court to recognize same-sex marriages, setting the stage for a legal face-off with Prime Minister Modi's government, which has in the past refused to legalize such marriages. In a historic verdict in 2018, India's top court decriminalized homosexuality by scrapping a colonial-era ban on gay sex. The Supreme Court has given the government until this Friday to submit its responses. Country superstar Wynonna Judd revealing some of the challenges she's facing after the death of her mom, Naomi. Responding to concerns from fans, Wynonna says that she's been focusing on healing. ABC's Will Reeve has those details.
Country superstar Wynonna Judd building a bridge with her fans and opening up about the state of her mental health following the death of her mother, Naomi, by suicide in April of 2022.
Well, I'm okay. Checking in. I have heard some of the comments, and the first thought I had was opinions and buttholes. And then I realized people are genuinely concerned, so I want to respond to that piece
The singer-songwriter posting a video message on Instagram on Tuesday, responding to fans who are concerned that she doesn't appear well, indicating that her manager may be pushing her too hard in the wake of her mother's tragic death.
I am working so hard on my mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. I have a great team, and I'm really blessed, and I'm broken, and I'm working really hard at self-care, which is not selfish, it's sacred.
This message coming just days after Judd notified fans in another post that she would be canceling her New Year's performance as a result of struggling with an extreme bout of vertigo. In this latest video, the star acknowledging the challenges she faces in balancing her well-being.
We call it Winona Incorporated because I incorporate a lot into my life. I have a very full schedule, but I also have time off to be on the farm and to walk in the woods and take the dogs. And tonight is Mexican night. We're playing games and it's family. So I'm okay.
Love is alive and it grows every day, not even in our sleep.
Now, with 2023 in full swing, Winona ending her message on an optimistic note for the future.
Last thing I'll say is, you can't keep a good woman down for too long.
We know that's right. Our thanks to Will Reeve for that. Still to come, he's hailed as a legend, and now he even has his own portrait. Why this Golden Retriever service is being honored.
Avatar: The Way of Water
is mind-blowing.
You don't know what to expect.
Unlike anything you've ever seen.
What will audiences see in this film that they've never seen in a movie before?
We were competing who was going to hold their breath longer.
I made it to 3 minutes.
I think I got to 5.
7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Into the deep with Avatar.
It was just amazing.
Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I have never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend. Could have been any of us. I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Finally tonight, he's a legend of the sidelines. Golden Retriever Spencer is the official dog of the 126 Boston Marathon, thanks to being a staple of support for runners each and every year. This week, a portrait was unveiled in his honor, as his family says they are soaking up every moment with their pup. Reporter Matt Reed with our partner station WCVB has his story in our local lowdown.
He's inspired thousands of marathon runners with his smile, his flags, and his determination to cheer them on in any condition. Now Spencer the Marathon Dog is being remembered with a massive portrait to honor the official dog of the Boston Marathon.
He's touched so many lives, and we were extremely lucky to have him.
For Spencer's human Richard Powers, who commissioned the painting, today is a beautiful but also tragic day, because after surviving a near rupture of a benign tumor in 2020 and beating cancer the very next year, today Spencer's family is sharing publicly that the 13-year-old Golden Retriever has been diagnosed once again with cancer.
There's a mass in his liver, and we've been monitoring it, and it's inoperable, and we did try some treatment that didn't help.
The focus now is on keeping Spencer comfortable at his home in Holliston and enjoying the simple pleasures.
He's still eating well. He's still doing his daily activities. Grabbed the Frisbee the other day.
Can I get one more shake, buddy?
And while Spencer's family is counting every day at this point as a blessing, Richard is not counting out this pup, who has beaten the odds before and may just prove the doctors wrong by being at his usual spot along the marathon route this spring.
You know, 2 years ago we almost lost him in 2020, and we were like, just make it to Christmas, and he's given us 26 months. And he's such a fighter. We're not giving up hope. We could be having this conversation in April, you know, so we're not going to give up hope on him.
We're cheering for him, and that's our show for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
This is a family that appeared to be perfect and wasn't.
A double homicide, a dark mystery, and a haunting note left behind.
It said, I have been watching for a long time.
Now, Friday night.
Was someone watching this family? What about that note?
What happened inside this house? Somebody know.
The new 2020 Friday night on ABC.
How often do these organs end up in American bodies? What are the secrets that most people don't know?
You should be very careful.
Let me see your ID card.
Wait.
This is a world you will have to live in. There's no going back.
Zoo!
200.
Oh, 200.
200 episodes of Dr. Pol. Music to my ears.
It's been 10 years, and I'm still having fun.
That rocks. He's got the moves that make your animals groove.
Now we do the dance of joy. Yay.
He's like the Justin Bieber of the
Headlining the hottest barns.
Cut out.
It's a show you won't want to miss.
I'm not going to be here forever. Maybe.
The Incredible Dr. Pol. New episodes Saturdays at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you. Yes, Whoopi!
This mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right, they don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasured that day. I couldn't sit there. You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good. Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Can I hug you?
Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
So, what's good to read? And we mean really good to read right now. Well, that's where Charlie and Kate Gibson can help.
Join us for the new podcast series. It is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sparks fly in North Carolina as two major storms sweep the U.S. This lightning strike was caught on camera in Mooresville, North Carolina. Fortunately, no one was hurt. As those systems move, there are tornado watches in the south and a life-threatening bomb cyclone hitting the west, bringing with it torrential rain, heavy snow, and winds up to 70 miles per hour. Our Ginger Z times it all out. The storm's set to move from Florida to the Carolinas and up the East Coast. The standoff over the House Speaker in Congress intensifies. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has now failed on 6 straight ballots to receive the 218 votes needed to become Speaker, blocked by hardline conservatives. The House voting to adjourn for the night. ABC News Live has complete coverage. A violent plan. Prosecutors say the suspect charged in the New Year's Eve attack on police near Times Square wanted to kill an officer in uniform and then planned to attack elected officials next. The man accused of murdering 4 college students is back in Idaho. What's next in the case against Brian Koberger? Signs of improvement. The encouraging update tonight after Buffalo Bills player Demar Hamlin's chilling collapse on the field as he went into cardiac arrest. His family shares what doctors want to see next. Parodying police online. Is it a First Amendment right or a violation of the law? Coming up, a closer look at a debate that could reach the Supreme Court.
So no one from the city, if they were concerned about it, reached out through the page and said, hey, who is this? Take it down.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I pretty much just try to make my friends on Facebook laugh. I didn't think it was going to go past that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us on this very busy Wednesday night. We are following a megastorm in California, up to 10 inches of rain and 70-mile-per-hour winds. Much more on the long night ahead there in a moment. But first, we begin this hour in Washington, where another long night is just finished unfolding. for a moment. 2 days after 2 days, Republican Kevin McCarthy is still unable to secure the 218 votes that he needs to become the next speaker. Let's take a live look now at the Capitol, where inside Kevin McCarthy may be burning the midnight oil, trying to avoid a Groundhog Day tomorrow with more rounds of failed votes. McCarthy and his allies were unable to convince any of the so-called never McCarthys to flip sides today after 3 more votes. The House gavelled back into session shortly after 8 p.m., only to barely vote to adjourn until noon tomorrow. We're in uncharted territory here in the last century as to what happens next. But until a speaker is chosen, Congress can conduct no other official business, and new members of Congress who've traveled here with their families to watch cannot be sworn in. So where does Congress go from here? Let's bring in congressional correspondent Rachel Scott, who will attempt to give us some answers here. Rachel, thanks for sticking up with us, staying up late. I know this has you waking up early, staying up late, burning the midnight oil. At this hour, Kevin McCarthy simply does not have the votes that he needs. So what are your sources telling us about what happens next?
Well, you know, it's so funny, Lindsay, because when I left Capitol Hill late last night, Kevin McCarthy told us that it was not the day that he was expecting. And I think he may be saying the same thing to us as we leave Capitol Hill again tonight, because for the 6th time, we have heard the House clerk read the words, "A speaker has not been elected." He met with Republicans behind closed doors for 3 hours. He came out and he told us that while they are making progress, at this point he did not believe that it would be productive to have another round of voting tonight. So we saw the House adjourn, and then they will resume. They'll reconvene tomorrow at noon and pick up an additional round of voting. The big question tonight is whether or not Kevin McCarthy can secure enough votes by tomorrow at noon to become the next Speaker of the House. Right now, that's still very unclear at this point, because you've had 20 Republicans, 20 members of his own party who are opposed to him. And you still have conservative members who left that meeting today. You had Congressman Matt Gaetz, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. They have made it clear that they will not support him. For them, this comes down to an issue of trust, and they say that they want McCarthy gone, Lindsay.
And I know this is a question that McCarthy would not want to hear, but if this is the same deal tomorrow, if we have more of the same with more rounds of failed votes, at what point does McCarthy start to face the reality that he's just not the one, that this is just not his time, he's not going to be able to squeak this one out?
Well, if you ask McCarthy, he will tell you that he is in this until the end. He is in this until he has the speaker's gavel. I have asked him this question repeatedly over the last 2 days. And the last time I asked him, he told me, look, the answer is not changing. I'll let you know when it does. But he said it's not going to. He says that he is in this battle. He is in this fight until he has the title of the Speaker of the House. But if you start to talk to even some of the Republicans who support him, they will tell you that they believe that time is running out here. And they believe that if McCarthy is not able to strike a deal with some Republicans, then it might be time to start considering other options. But of course, that presents some challenges of its own as well, because even though there are enough Republicans to block McCarthy's path to becoming the next Speaker of the House, he still has the majority of the support of the conference. And so it does remain unclear if there is another Republican that could really garner that much support. At this point, we are in uncharted territory. You talked about how this is a once-in-a-century fight. I mean, members cannot even be sworn into Congress because we don't have a Speaker of the House. The House can't even consider legislation. They can't consider bills at all because we don't have a Speaker of the House. We do not have a functioning Congress at this point, heading into a 3rd day, and tomorrow we don't know if it's going to be any different, Lindsay.
Yeah, the equivalent in some ways of a government shutdown here, at least within the House. Rachel, while we see the infighting with Republicans, the Democrats have been able to stick together here. Talk about their strategy going forward.
Democrats really are taking a little bit of a victory lap here. I mean, you heard Congressman Pete Aguilar. He nominated Congressman Hakeem Jeffries again today, and he said, you know, once again, this is a Democrat that has gotten more votes for Speaker than the Republican. And that's the first time as well. We talk about how much history is being made here. Well, this is the first time that we have seen a member of the minority party get more votes than a member of the majority party when it comes to Speaker of the House. But they're also getting a little exhausted by this process. They believe it's dragging on for far too long. And the reality is that the majority in the House is not going to change. Republicans will still hold that razor-thin majority, and they want to move on with this very quickly. Pelosi says this is a sign that this reflects leadership, but even President Biden is saying that this is not necessarily, good for the country. They want to see this move on, Lindsay.
Rachel Scott, our thanks to you as always. We'll be talking with you again tomorrow, I have a feeling.
We sure will. Thanks, Lindsay.
Joining us now for more is Republican Congressman Andy Barr of Kentucky. Congressman, we thank you so much for your time tonight on what's been a long night. Where does your party go from here? Do you have any reason to believe that after 6 rounds of holding firm, some of these never McCarthy Republicans will actually decide to switch their votes?
Well, Lindsay, thanks for having me on the program, but I don't think the vast majority of pro-McCarthy Republicans in the Congress really think it's just about Kevin McCarthy. This is about making sure that we do not reward dysfunction, that we set the right precedent and tone at the beginning of this Congress so that we do not enable the minority party. If we want, as conservatives, to advance a conservative agenda, we need to be united, and we cannot enable the Democrats to control the Congress. The only way we can do that is to elect a Speaker of the House. And so I do believe we're making progress. Leader McCarthy has been meeting with some of the members who have had some concerns and some objections and have voted for other Republicans to be Speaker. I am told by members of individuals who are in those discussions tonight that they were making very positive progress, that they were very productive conversations. And that's why Republicans were able to unite tonight, to adjourn, to continue these very productive discussions, which I think will result in some additional reforms that will result in a unified conference tomorrow. And ultimately, we will elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House.
You feel 100% certain of that?
Well, nothing is 100% certain, especially in these times in Washington. But what I can tell you is that there are productive conversations that are going on right now. And I think every Republican understands that every day that goes by where we do not have a Speaker of the House, it's a day where we do not get to defund the 87,000 new IRS agents that the Democrat majority and the Biden administration passed to harass the American people. It's a day that goes by where we're not securing the border or we're not dealing with 40-year high inflation. It's a day that goes by where we don't have the necessary oversight of the Biden administration. So we owe it to our philosophy. We owe it to the American people who elected us to be in the majority. We owe it to them to elect a Speaker of the House to move our agenda that they elected us to accomplish.
Your colleague, Representative Ralph Norman, who's been a no vote on McCarthy and a member of the Freedom Caucus, says that he wants McCarthy to commit to voting against raising the debt ceiling later this year. Do you think that McCarthy should agree to that?
Well, it depends on what Ralph is talking about. Ralph is a friend of mine, colleague on the House Financial Services Committee. We all recognize that default is not an option, but what Ralph is advocating for, and frankly what I advocate for as well as a supporter of McCarthy for Speaker, is reform. We need to stop the spending spree in Washington that has produced this 40-year high inflation, that has given the American people $30 trillion in national debt. We do have to change the way Washington does business because we're on the road to bankruptcy. We've got to make some changes. And the debt limit law is flawed because it hasn't prevented the deficit spending, the spending spree. We might need to rethink and reimagine the debt ceiling law to actually force the reforms that have to happen to save America from bankruptcy. So I give Ralph, my colleague, credit for fighting for reform, but we also have to be unified if we're actually going to advance that agenda of fiscal responsibility.
Congressman, I really hate to ask this, and I don't want to seem alarmist here at all, but at the moment, as you're well aware, the country does not have a properly functioning legislative branch. No other business can be conducted until this is resolved. New members can't even be sworn in. What would happen if, God forbid, there is an emergency that needs to be dealt with immediately?
Well, look, I mean, obviously, the Congress needs to get going. We need to elect a speaker so that we can get into the skiff, get the intelligence briefings, do the things that need to be done for the proper functioning of the government. But remember this as well, that the framers of the Constitution did not envision an efficient government. They envisioned a government that was complicated, that was a little messy, that reflected the diversity of our country. We have 435 different members of Congress from 435 different parts of our country. This is a diverse country with a lot of different views, and so the Congress reflects that diversity and that complexity. And the framers of the Constitution designed this place to have checks and balances, to be inefficient. That's the way they actually wanted it. And so it's going to take a little longer than normal, but it is a reflection of the differences of opinion in our country. Ultimately, we have to compromise, come together, reach consensus, but achieve those reforms that we're trying to achieve for the American people. That's why they elected a new Congress to begin with.
Can you and other lawmakers receive classified briefings at this moment? And also just want to confirm, until a speaker is elected, are you and your colleagues even getting paid right now?
Well, the Constitution sets the pay, and there is actually a constitutional prohibition on changing the pay, although I have voted in the past for a bill called No Budget, No Pay, meaning if we don't pass a budget, if we don't do the fundamental job of governing, we shouldn't get paid. At least it should go in escrow and not be paid out to us until we get the job done. I certainly would support that in this instance as well. The American people deserve that. But what I would also say is that we need to elect a speaker and move forward for those national security reasons. In fact, much of the national security work that we need to be doing is interrupted right now because we don't have a Speaker of the House, because we're not routinely getting those briefings. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm the top Republican on the National Security Subcommittee for the House Financial Services Committee. We oversee sanctions. We oversee the Treasury Department's international portfolio. I can't get what I need to do my job right now because of what's going on. So it is imperative that these discussions continue tonight, that we proceed with these negotiations. Let's get the reforms, let's bank those reforms, let's improve the institution, but then ultimately, let's elect Kevin McCarthy Speaker and move forward with our agenda.
Congressman Andy Barr, we so appreciate you staying a little later for us. Really appreciate your time and insight.
Thanks, Lindsay.
And now we head out west to the megastorm taking aim at the Bay Area and the state of California. A state of emergency there tonight as the National Weather Service is calling it a life-threatening bomb cyclone. And in Sacramento, there are major concerns as crews are still working to repair levees that were breached over the weekend from the last storm. That's where Momo Langi is reporting from for us tonight.
Tonight, California's governor declaring a state of emergency, and the warnings couldn't be more dire.
This may be one of the most challenging and impactful series of storms to touch down in California in the last 5 years.
The storm promising to be even stronger than the one that inundated neighborhoods, flooded businesses up to their windows, and washed out roads over the weekend. The ground still saturated. High winds now more likely to bring down trees. Our Ginger Z is south of San Francisco.
The winds will gust 50 to 70 miles per hour. These waves could climb as high as 30 feet. But you'll also have training rain, meaning it'll ride over basically a train track, the same place as getting inundated.
People racing to prepare.
We have our generators ready. We have flashlights. We're ready to go. Candles, just in case.
The last storm compromised multiple levees in Sacramento County, flooding roads and homes, including Vic Shadas. Concerned now that this other storm's coming through?
Yeah, I am. Those trees along that driveway, if one of them goes down, even though we might not flood, you can't get out.
That system crossing the country, dumping more than a foot of snow in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Overnight, a Delta flight sliding off a taxiway after landing at the airport there. And in Montgomery, Alabama, a possible tornado damaging more than 50 homes and businesses. 2 people hurt. Well, authorities confirming tonight a second person killed in last weekend's flooding here in Sacramento County. After that levee break, crews now racing to plug that break ahead of the storms moving in. As you can see, wind starting to pick up here. We are expecting rain soon. Let's see.
Tonight, the suspect in the murders of 4 Idaho college students is back in Idaho, moved from a Pennsylvania jail early this morning. Now we're learning new details about what happened when suspect Brian Koberger was pulled over by police during a cross-country drive with his dad back in December. Here's Kena Whitworth.
Tonight, stunning new images showing a second traffic stop police made in Indiana, pulling over Idaho murder suspect Brian Kohlberger and his dad during their 2,500-mile road trip to Pennsylvania.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours.
Kohlberger's dad trying to explain they're punchy because they'd been driving for days from Washington State University, even bringing up another crime on that campus that had rattled them. It was unrelated to the nearby Idaho murders.
Oh, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
The father telling police Brian is a PhD in criminal justice, and the officer lets him go.
Okay. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Minutes later, an Indiana trooper pulls them over again for tailgating, both stops ending with only a warning. Tonight, the suspect in the murder of those 4 college students is now on his way to Idaho. His return paving the way for authorities to unseal the arrest warrant, describing the evidence against him.
I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents.
Police have not said whether they believe Kohlberger knew the victims, but we're learning more about his movements near the University of Idaho in the months leading up to the murders.
Law enforcement in Pullman and Moscow had no prior history with this guy.
I think we had a traffic stop with him at one point in time. I think we gave a seatbelt ticket.
In the white Elantra?
Yes.
That traffic stop in Moscow back in August, 3 months before the murders.
Kana Whitworth is back in Idaho tonight. Kana, we know that Kohlberger was pulled over at least 3 times by police. Let's revisit those 2 stops in Indiana. At the time, Idaho police were asking for help to find a white Hyundai Elantra. The story made national headlines. What are police in Indiana saying now about that?
So, Lindsay, what they're saying is that at the time of those pullovers, there was no identifying information about a suspect for the crimes here in Idaho. They also said they had no license plate number for the white Elantra that authorities here were looking for. And as for Kohlberger, his lawyer says that he is eager to be exonerated. Lindsay?
All right, Kana Whitworth for us once again. Thanks so much, Kana. The suspect in the New Year's Eve attack on police officers near Times Square has been arraigned on attempted murder charges from his hospital bed. Prosecutors shared terrifying details of the suspect's desire to, quote, kill an officer in uniform. ABC's Aaron Katersky has the chilling details for us tonight.
Tonight, authorities say the 19-year-old from Maine charged in the New Year's Eve knife attack on 3 police officers near Times Square had plans to carry out jihad in New York and beyond. Prosecutors allege Trevor Bickford, who sources say was on an FBI watch list after his mother reported he'd been radicalized, intended to travel across the United States and had purchased a train ticket to Miami, determined to target government officials and officers in uniform.
He knew what he was doing. He knew why he was doing it.
Bickford allegedly confessing, newly unsealed court records quoting him saying, I wanted to kill an officer in uniform. I saw the officer and waited until he was alone. I said, Allahu Akbar. I walked up and hit him over the head. I charged another officer but dropped the knife, and I tried to get the police officer's gun but couldn't. The suspect was taken into custody after being shot in the shoulder by police, today appearing before a judge virtually from his hospital bed. The mayor praising those officers.
Those officers discharged 1 round. Concerned about the safety of everyone that was there, they immediately terminated the threat.
Aaron Katersky joins us now. Aaron, how is the recovery going for those injured officers?
All 3 of those officers, Lindsay, have been released from the hospital on New Year's Day, so they've been at home. They're continuing to recover. And as you heard the mayor say, their actions are being praised for stopping the suspect here, just a few blocks from Times Square. That's how the security perimeter is supposed to work. So the police say that their plan worked because the suspect was not able to access the immediate area where all the revelers were before the ball drop. Needless to say, those officers, however, were injured, and it could be some time before they're back on the force.
And have the attorneys for the suspect made any statements at all?
Let's get that again. They have. The attorneys for the suspect, being represented by Legal Aid Society, said that they would like the public not to make any hasty conclusions about what went on here on New Year's Eve. And Lindsay, they pointed to the suspect's age, 19 years old. They said he's just a kid. Lindsay?
All right, Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you. Now to the NFL and news on Buffalo Bills safety Demar Hamlin, who remains in intensive care tonight after suffering cardiac arrest on the field during the team's Monday night football game. Hamlin's family today said that his condition is moving in a positive direction. Alex Perez reports tonight, once again from Cincinnati.
Tonight, as Demar Hamlin battles for his life, loved ones who have been by his bedside finally getting an encouraging update.
We've gotten good news. We heard from the doctors, and what they were wanting to see from him overnight, they were pleased with. We don't know how long this medical journey is going to be for him, but right now things are moving in a positive direction.
The horrific incident during Monday Night Football, the 24-year-old Buffalo Bills safety collapsing and suffering cardiac arrest after taking a hit to the chest during this tackle against the Cincinnati Bengals. Medics rushing in, performing CPR for 10 agonizing minutes, restoring his heartbeat on the field.
They are intensely working on Demar Hamlin.
Hamlin's agent telling ESPN his oxygen levels have improved, but Hamlin remains sedated and in critical condition. NFL executive and former player Troy Vincent emotional, breaking down as he thanked those fast-acting first responders.
You gave our brother Demar another day to live, another chance to fight.
The NFL saying this weekend's games will go on, but there's been no decision on when or if the suspended game will be played. The Bengals head coach says the focus remains on Hamlin's recovery.
All everyone's hoping for is the best case scenario with Demar.
Best case scenario, of course, is what everyone is hoping for here. Alex Perez joins us now from Cincinnati. Alex, President Biden even talked about this today. What did he have to say?
Yeah, Lindsay, the president revealed he has talked extensively with Hamlin's parents, and in referring to the risk players face, the president said it is dangerous. You just got to acknowledge it. Lindsay?
All right, Alex Perez for us. Thanks so much, Alex. When we come back, why a car crash that sparked the desperate rescue of 2 children and 2 adults is now leading to criminal charges for the father behind the wheel. And the so-called mastermind behind the college admissions scandal is sentenced in court. But first, police arrested a man over a fake Facebook page, and now he's waging a legal fight, hoping to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. How this could be a major test for both the First Amendment in the digital age and qualified immunity for police officers.
ABC News, America's #1 news source.
How often do these organs end up in American bodies? What are the secrets that most people don't know?
You should be very careful.
Let me see your ID card. Wait.
This is a world you will have to live in. There's no going back.
Bring them on. If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place as spectacular as, well, me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends. Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom, boom, boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom! Now that's how you start your day, people.
It's the type of place where you can walk home by yourself late at night.
It really is the perfect college town.
Police are investigating the death of a freshman.
The victim had been stabbed 19 times.
I've never seen that much blood in any crime scene.
She was one of us.
She was everyone's best friend.
Could have been any of us.
I was just really scared.
While it's wonderful to think that you can leave your doors unlocked, don't.
Death in the Dorms, only on Hulu.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're going to love it.
So, what's good to read? And we mean really good to read right now. Well, that's where Charlie and Kate Gibson can help.
Join us for the new podcast series. It is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
ABC News is America's #1 news. #1 in the morning, #1 in the evening, the #1 news magazine on Friday nights, the #1 daytime talk show, and #1 in streaming news. ABC News, America's #1 news.
Come out, wherever you
I think my niece Allie was pushed off that ledge. And only one person came into an 8-figure sum as a result of her death.
If we pull this off, we're set for life.
What do you think you're doing?
Get out now.
Can this be our little secret? They have to pay for what they did.
The Watchful Eye, January 30th on Freeform and stream on Hulu.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
Ready for a good show? I'm Phil Grucci of Fireworks by Grucci.
No matter how big, no matter how small.
It is dangerous.
It's not a paycheck, it's our life.
All right, this is like the new chapter. This is fire. They not just sneakers. These sneakers tell stories.
I'm the king of
Who are these guys who want to reshape the culture of the game of golf from a black standpoint?
I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life.
Don't cry yet. Just hold on.
You talk about grails, well, this is ours, and this is our story.
This can actually change the game.
I'm the king of the wild.
From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
2 climate activists spray painted the front entrance of the French Prime Minister's office in protest against what the group called